Gotham, and Merry Christmas! I hope you're watching Batman. This one's for you.
Zone control initiated. Parade override engaged.
What the hell was that?
Bruce, you didn't get him a gift certificate.
No. Cash.
Yeah, can I help you?
Yes. We're looking for the legendary Kevin Bacon.
We're looking for the legendary Kevin Bacon.
I just said that, Drax.
Jill, there's just no way to explain the devastation right now, as the Life Day Parade turned Christmas Parade turned massacre unfolds before us. Both Life Day and Christmas have been ruined forever by...
Data! Hologram! Now!
Fuck!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Space-Tastic Discussions. So recently, we had our spoiler-free Rebel Moon review. Well, guess what? Rebel Moon has been out for over a week now, so there has been time to see it. So now, please welcome as I join Josh again to now discuss our thoughts, full spoilers. So, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay, so spoilers.
What is up, Batman?
What up,
Spoilers.
Josh?
It's a new age for the universe, Batman. That's a spoiler right there.
Oh yeah, a new age for the universe. And what up, Taladia?
Hey, Taladia.
We got
Mr.
Taladia, Mr. Wayne. So yeah, I'm really excited to have you back on the show again to talk about our full thoughts on this, because a lot of stuff was held back, and when we were talking about certain characters like Kai and Darian Bloodaxe. Oh my god, it was so hard to like talk in code for certain things.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's no holds barred, no holding back. We're gonna give you the R-rated. No, I'm just kidding. Let's just say the director's R-rated cut.
We will do it. We'll definitely review the R-rated cut at some point, though, when that comes out.
Oh, we have to, definitely.
So yeah, you know what? So let's just get started right now. So we'll have a lot of the same topics that we've had before. Some stuff, yeah, we'll do some of the same topics. We'll see, and some new ones too. But opening act so far, guess now that the spoiler ban is down, what are some of the thoughts that you kind of wanted to say that you didn't say last time, or anything that you kind of want to expand on now that we have the spoiler free? We no longer have the spoiler-free restrictions.
So, I wanted to kind of recap that me and you were both lucky enough to live in cities where we saw Rebel Moon theatrically. And I'm very happy that I was able to help you make that happen. But you had to move a lot of obstacles to make sure that you got there, right? So congratulations to you for making that happen, because I know it wasn't easy in a big city like Chicago that you are in. So really happy and proud of you for being a true Zack Snyder fan, Batman. So salute to you.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you again for helping me get that, for showing that to me, because I don't think I ever would have seen that.
Yeah. So opening act for me, I saw it in the theaters with two of my real good friends. And I'll be honest, during the narration of Jimmy, I think I was just kind of like really captivated by the visuals and what was happening. And I kind of honestly, because I know Anthony Hopkins' dialogue was, kind of played with and made it seem like he was an android when he was speaking as Jimmy in the trailers, right? So when I heard regular, it was just Anthony Hopkins, it kind of threw me off. And what he was saying, I think I was so interested in what was happening on the screen. What he was saying was kind of going over my head. And I was like, wait, stop. Like, I slowed down. Like, I really wanted to like ingest it. And so I knew that there was stuff like important. And I was just like, oh, immediately I was like, I'm going to have to rewatch this movie. Like, not even like that I was not listening. I was listening, but I really, from the start, was like, oh, crap. I'm going to need to fully digest this. And during my screening, a guy laughed very loud, audibly during the dialogue. And because I was kind of, that kind of threw me off as well. And I was like, wait, what did Jimmy say? What did Jimmy say? And we come to find out it was nothing about that. It was what was visually happening on screen that he was laughing at. And I was like, oh, okay, I get what he is doing. So immediately I knew from the opening scene that this was going to just be, I was in for a ride. And I was just like, my mind was already kind of like, it was slowly expanding before it was about to be blown. So that's what I was kind of thinking. And of course we get that gorgeous shot of Velt when the horizon comes down and we see, you know, the planet, the rings. I forget the planet that Zach confirmed. It's the rings of something, and they're on that planet that we see in the background. But we see Kora, you know, doing her farming, and it says "A Child of Fire." Part 1. And I was just like, here we go. You can tell that this is going to be mythological, epic, and not what you think it's going to be, you know, because I think it was very reminiscent. This is called Space-Tastic Discussions. In our, you know, first episode, we were talking about Star Wars, Zack Snyder Star Wars and whatnot. And so I kind of realized, I was like, okay, we're not doing an opening crawl. We're doing exposition with the famous, iconic Sir Anthony Hopkins, right? So it was kind of similar, but not. It was different, right? And then we get that tender moment where we're introduced to Kora with the music, and we're just like really kind of like brought down. We're introduced into this crazy universe, and then we're brought down to a more relatable level of a ordinary, seemingly farmer that's, you know, tilling the soil and being very compassionate in how she's seeding and farming. So I was locked in from the get-go, seeing Kora do her chores and really starting off this journey as a Joseph Campbell-esque character archetype. And I was along for the ride. How'd you feel about it?
It was great. I love Anthony Hopkins. He has one of those voices that is just always so interesting to listen to. Like, no matter what he says, it's just, he has that really compelling voice that really gets you invested in the story. And then seeing Kora kind of down on Earth, really appreciating life. You really, after rewatching the movie, after seeing her backstory, it makes you really see a lot more of why she's appreciating the way she does. The dirt, looking at the sunset, because she hasn't had that freedom before, because she's always been working for the mother world since the age of 9. So now she's actually free, and you feel a lot more sympathetic for her after doing a rewatch. That's why I always say Zack Snyder's movies are ones that need a rewatch, because you pick up on things the first time that you haven't picked up on the second time. And that's why I always encourage people who maybe didn't like Rebel Moon the first time, watch it again, give it a shot, or even just wait for the extended cut if you so want to. But I mean, I'll be honest, like, you know, Man of Steel, for example, I liked Man of Steel when I first saw it, but I like Man of Steel a lot better now than I did then, because I pick up on more and more. And that's how this movie is too. You pick up on more things. The more you watch it, you pick on those subtle details that Zack Snyder foreshadowed. And that's why I say Zack Snyder is such a great director, is the fact that he creates that rewatchability for these movies. And that's what he really showed here, is you see a lot more, especially when you see the farmers just celebrating, talking about, it's so funny, they joke about how they're going to sacrifice someone for the tribute, but then the tribute's just dancing and getting laid and consensual sex, emphasize the consensual part of that, to like make the gods happy, something very, very nice acts to do. So and like knowing what's going to happen, knowing that the mother world's going to come down and fuck all that up. We're past 30 seconds. Yeah, fuck all that up. Then you feel a lot worse for it now. Seeing I forget the leader's name. Sinrig is his name.
Sindri.
Yeah, Sindri. And seeing like what a great leader he is, seeing all the compassion he shows for his people, and celebrating the work that they all do together. So you feel a lot more upset that Atticus kills him. That when Atticus kills him, you feel a lot worse about it. So it's such a great opening act. And there's something in the trailer that I want to kind of talk about that I got a different vibe from the trailer than I did the movie. Like in the trailer, the first trailer, when Kora's adoptive father on what's the name of that, on Velt, Velt, says that I considered leaving you in the wreckage. I thought for a second he was going to be this very non-loving person, from the trailer. And then in the movie, it's the exact opposite. It's like, yeah, I felt that way at first, but he said, I don't regret bringing you into our lives. He's like, because I mean, that's how it is. Like, you grow attachment to someone over time. You don't necessarily feel it from that initially. Like, here's a great example I kind of want to kind of compare him to in a way. Have you seen Stranger Things?
Of course. Love that show.
I've seen the first 3 seasons, so I have not seen season 4 and beyond yet. But you remember how, how Hopper's character in season 1, he tries to sell out 11 to the bad guys, and then here he is in season 3, actually as her father, as her adoptive father.
Yep.
So it shows how much things just change over time. And like with this guy, it's just kind of like that same type of thing. It's like at first he was worried about the trouble, but after getting to know Kora, he really appreciates and loves her like his own daughter at that point. And you can really tell that from the small little bit of time that you see.
Yep. I believe, according to a Rebel Moon Wikipedia page, I think that character's name is Hagen, Hagen, because I don't think he says it ever. But yeah, that character, of course, we know him from the beginning of the Act 1, actually, of Zack Snyder's Justice League as Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne. What's going on, DC Talk?
Wait, that's
and
the same
yeah,
guy as
he's
Bruce.
the guy, the
I never-
Icelandic guy in the Aquaman scene when Bruce Wayne gives him his card. That's the same
Yeah.
actor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
And another, initially in the opening act, you talked about the scene where they're talking about the rituals and the harvest. Immediately, right away, I recognize the same actor, Din, I believe his name is. That's the same actor from Army of Thieves. So immediately, we see Kora, she's like into Gunnar, kind of. We see her with Gunnar, but then she also sees Din. So there's like this little love triangle going on. And I'm like, is he a connection to Army of the Dead, Army of Thieves universe? Because it's the same actor.
Yeah, and Zach did say those two were going to connect.
So immediately I looked at that and I paid attention to that. But since you're actually talking about, that ritual, and that's just a kind of a seasonal thing, as it's kind of tradition, actually. Certain times of years, you got to procreate, you got to keep the community going, you got to thrive off the land. I can tell that this is like a means to survival for this community and this tribe. And it kind of, like I said, it just kind of made me feel like this is a society that's not too, it is fantastical, it is alien, it is a different universe, but there's a lot that we can relate to, I think, and it invests us, right? I'm going to just go ahead and say it. I found out after the fact that the guy in the very front, he was like in literally like the second row. So to him, I'm sure when he saw the rip in space, the shape that it made was what he was laughing at as Anthony Hopkins is giving that dialogue. And so he kind of threw me off, and then I was like, what's going on? What's going on? But apparently there is a reason for the shape of that portal. It is a rip in the multiverse universe. It looks like the ship is coming from maybe Earth, maybe a Milky Way galaxy. I don't know. But apparently the beginning of the director's cut will be completely different and explain why that rip looks like that. But from the opening act, we get imagery, we get the sense that this is going to be a little bit more hardcore of a movie. This version is very family friendly, right? And it's very PG-13. But we know that Zack Snyder is going to give us the full-on Snyder cut of Rebel Moon. But for me, honestly, I think this opening act just works because it establishes from the get a character and a civilization that we can relate to, right? Like Sindri seems very just like fun, but a good leader at first in that little scene. We see Kora trying to figure out how she's going to fit in with, she's getting pressured. Like you need to pair off and mate with somebody. And I'm sure females probably can put themselves in that situation where society wants you to, like, hey, you got to partner up, you got to have a husband, you got to have a mate, or you're nothing. I've talked to my female friends and they've kind of felt that, like, why do I have to be, with somebody to be seen and to be thought of as accepted? Why can't I just be me, and not be with anybody? So I got that early on with Kora's character, and I really kind of just like related, even that I'm a male, I was just like, there were times in my life when family's like, hey, are you going to be with somebody? I'm like, no, I'm happy. I'm good. Leave me alone. I'm just farming. I'm doing my stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I get that too. I've had that too. It's like, oh, why didn't you have a girlfriend? So yeah, I've definitely dealt with that, and that's part of it too. But at the end of the day, it really just establishes that the village cares about each other,
Yes.
and that they're just. And I think that was really important, so that when you see the mother world come and mess everything up, you feel a lot worse for it. So I think the opening act, it did exactly what it needed to do, and there's definitely more story to tell. I think there's definitely a lot more story to tell, and we can definitely get into that a lot more later. But I think kind of what we said before, what helped the opening act was the visuals. Is that we were talking a lot about visuals of this movie, and just like one visual I really loved is the Griffin, the Beneath. I'm still bad at a lot of these names, but the Griffin character, it looked like when you see Tarak jump on it, like that shot is just such a great shot that he's able to do it. And well, one thing I really loved is that when the Griffin was gonna knock Tarak off, he's looking at that cliff. You see his eyes actually open. You can see that open is like, what he's gonna do, and then just like, and it's hard to do when you have to communicate characters who don't talk. You have to communicate facial expressions, and Zack Snyder does such a great job with that.
Oh yeah, like this very quickly from the opening scene, and of course that amazing scene of the Banu. By that point, I was already like, oh yeah, this makes 100% sense why Rebel Moon is on the top 10 of the short list for possible nominations for best visual effects at the Academy Awards in 2024, right? Like DJ and I believe Marcus Tribble, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Marcus, both worked on part 1 and part 2, and I think this potential nomination is much deserved, and I really hope it goes through, because this world was fantastical, sparks your imagination, and this is we got to see it theatrically back then, but this is a Netflix movie, but
yeah,
it was made let's be honest, you and me can say it was made as a theatrical experience, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it definitely, like, I still like seeing it at home, obviously, but it was definitely I'm glad I saw it in theaters the first time, because a lot of these shots just look so much better on a theater, and I have a 4K TV. I have a 75, 65, somewhere between there, 4K TV, so it still looks really good, but in the theater, it just looks so much better, and plus, I have neighbors, so I can't exactly turn it up loudly.
Right.
Because it's just funny, actually, because it's like sometimes I can have the movie up to 35 and it be no problem. I had to keep it at a 20 volume because of how loud this movie is compared to other stuff. So that was really but there's definitely a difference between seeing something in theater and in live action. Look, what up? We got Brogu in the chat. What up, Brogu?
Brogu.
And that shot where they're in that final fight, just the explosions that you see, the way that someone, like when Kai betrays them and you see the explosions behind it. There was something about that shot that just looked really good about.
Oh yeah, I did a watch along yesterday on my channel, and I was really paying attention to that. I remember in that scene, what's up, Austin?
What up, good Austin?
In that scene, it was very I was like, whoa, the amount of explosion, because what happens, Kora shoots something and then it explodes and the tower starts falling because of what happens with Bloodaxe. And I was just like, they're all gonna die. Like I said it during my watch along. I was like, when I saw this first time, I was like, okay, everyone's dead. I was like, Zach's just gonna kill everybody, and there's gonna be a new main character. Like that, the amount of destruction and the way that the blasters, even just like in the brothel scene or the cantina or whatever you want to call it, seeing the shots and the way the lava or the blast kind of emits from the barrel, I was just like, whoa, these are way more visceral than anything in Star Wars, and really makes it seem like this world is 10 times more lethal than anything in Star Wars. And you just really got to watch your back, because, you know, these visuals make you really understand that there's stakes, and it's a fantastical world, but also, you know, that people, you know, might get axed at any moment. It's very cutthroat.
Yeah, we were kind of lucky that really none of the characters did die, because I'm gonna, you know, I'm just gonna say it right now. We'll talk more when we get to Darian Bloodaxe, but we were talking about how we're gonna see more Darian Bloodaxe, and because that was a spoiler-free review, I put backstage in the chat, in the backstage chat, I said I don't think Darian Bloodaxe is dead, and Josh agreed with me. We didn't see a body. I know he's in the trailer, but that could be a flashback, so I'm not going to take that as definitive proof that he's alive. But so because of that, I'm going to say that none of the named characters are confirmed dead right now. So, but except for Kai, he's dead. Although they might find.
I don't know.
I mean, we thought that Atticus was dead, and look what happened. So who knows? I mean, if Atticus is alive, then I can't confirm any of these characters. You just don't want to do too many fake deaths, though, because when you make death too obscure, then too much of a joke, then there's no stakes. But still, I think it just really created a great sense of hype, of fear, of anxiousness, and Zach just does such a great job with visuals. I mean, I think that's one thing that everyone agrees with, even the haters. Zach is a visual director. He does visuals so well.
Oh yeah, 100% agreed. I think that there was so much care in how they wanted this world to seem real to us, right? So it seems like, you know, death is very like definitive in this world, but who knows? This is a new universe, so we don't know what kind of rules and what kind of, you know, things are, you know, we don't know. And like Austin said, Charlie Hunnam has been quoted as saying, I don't know if this is true, but he says, oh, and there was a line filmed for the director's cut where he says, if you think I'm handsome, you should see my twin brother.
Well, see, okay, so if he has a twin brother, then I'm even more convinced now that Kai's actually dead. Because if there's a way to keep the actor and not bring back the character, I think Zach will take that. Because I think, if anything, that creates a better motivation for Kai to be dead. Because I think there's a lot more dynamic. He could be coming back for revenge. He could be different than his brother. He could be an actual genuine good guy too. People aren't defined by their family, but it still creates that trust. I think there's so much great potential if there is a twin and Kai's dead. So,
well, and then later on, Ray Porter, Darkseid himself, when he's reintroduced to Kai, he says, if it isn't the bastard from Solderon. And okay, so that means he's a bastard. Okay, so if he has a twin brother, maybe could it be, Bat Dan, that there might be clones in this universe? Who's to say?
Oh.
So maybe he purposefully, because of the type of work he's doing, has some reserves just in case he gets taken out, because he's all about the money. And if he has a job that he needs to finish for money, maybe there's somebody in cold storage. Maybe there's some DNA that can, who knows? That's what I'm saying. Who knows? But we'll see. We will find out.
Wow, and we'll definitely get more into that with when we get to Kai's character. But another thing I want to talk about is music. There was one shot where, you know, when Atticus is blowing up King Levitica's kingdom, and there's a score. There's a certain note I hear that sounds exactly like a note from Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's basically when in Zack Snyder's Justice League, when it transitions from that scene with Aquaman to Steppenwolf going Desaad, that shot, there's a note right there that sounds exactly like that note in Rebel Moon. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, so you obviously have a background in music, so of course you have that ear to pick up on certain notes. And yes, I will say, Good Austin has talked. He talked about he listened to the soundtrack before it came out. I kind of honestly like to experience the soundtrack for the first time when I'm watching a movie in the theater, because I love music videos. I do, and so I love how art syncs together. So I love visuals synced with music. And so, with somebody like Junkie XL doing the score, when it hits me and I can, the music can give me goosebumps by itself, but then if I get the visuals on top of it, it just helps me get those goosebumps every time, I've realized. So I listened to it afterwards back then. And yes, there are certain notes. I heard people complaining about the soundtrack. Actually, they were like, "This is just like Zack Snyder's Justice League," and I definitely hear a similarity, but I think that works. I actually just posted a Instagram story where the track is called the last part of the climax, "A Good Place to Die," when they're triumphant over the mother world at the end. That same bit of music played right after my Instagram story. I put the Foundation theme, which is when Superman pulls up Batman from the abyss and joins the Justice League. So you get that shot of them all lined up, all six. So if you play those tracks back to back, and you can look at them on my Instagram stories, I think they're available still right now. There's definitely influence from Zack Snyder's Justice League throughout this music. So I think you're onto something back then.
That's common for composers. Composers always use similar notes and similar, especially when you're working for the same director.
But it works,
So,
right? Because there's
yeah.
definitely stuff not in Zack Snyder's Justice League that is in Rebel Moon, for sure, as well.
I mean, it's like notes I hear, but I never hear the exact same song. Because
Right, yeah.
that's common for composers. They take inspiration from their other works, but they never completely copy it. And so, I mean, Austin brings up a good point here with the bodies. It's like, yeah, under PG-13, so that will confirm it then. If you see bodies in the rated R cut, that will kind of confirm if some of these characters are dead. I still don't think Bloodaxe is dead, though. I think Bloodaxe is alive, but
yeah. That's what I would say. Yeah. Could he just be saying a bastard in this world as like a derogatory, cuss word? Or is he saying, actually, you're a bastard? And that's right. That's what made me think, Austin, like, is Kai the one who's, maybe the twins? We know twins or something in Star Wars. So did they separate at birth for a certain reason? Where they have their family history or their ties have something to do with them being royalty? And therefore, there's somebody living a privileged life and somebody living a scoundrel life. We don't know. So I don't know.
Well, I'll put it like this. If they do twins in Star Wars, one thing that Rebel Moon hopefully does not copy from Lucasfilm is the incest part of it.
Hey, there might be some people that want to see. I know Mama Bear, I think maybe it was yesterday talking about Kai. So there might be people that want fanfic of two Kais. So.
Oh God, no. And
I listened to this. Yeah, that's what he was saying. Imagine the visuals on Belt and the trailers. While doing so, music can exist eternally. The woman who became a wolf is the opening scene. Amazing. Yeah, I agree. It's very tender, like that music at the beginning.
Yeah, well, like just hearing like just the beautiful sound of like kind of the complement the visuals, and Kora's looking up at the sunset, just like that kind of calming music that plays, that peaceful music really just helps. It helps emphasize the story a lot more.
Agreed. And Junkie, I think he knocked it out of the park. Like, I haven't listened to the full soundtrack. I do intend to when I get time. I'm playing Rebel Moon on repeat, but when I get some free time, I might try to just listen to the soundtrack separately. I'm enjoying listening to the soundtrack with the dialogue while I work and do stuff, honestly. And I talked about this, how it kind of like the music will even like when there's no dialogue, I'll think of the scene in my mind and kind of visualize. I'm like, oh yeah, I think this happens here, and then I'll kind of look and I'm like, oh, I was right. So it's kind of me studying the film more or less with my auditory senses. Before Zach could with the visuals. This world is so beautiful. Yes, as a producer myself, heavy tones from Justice League and yeah, I agree. I mean, there's parts though, Austin, right? But like there's also moments where like the Nemesis scene is, there's nothing really like that. That like the samurai-esque influence, right? That I don't think there's anything like that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, or even when I think it's Pollux when they're recruiting General Titus. There's more gladiator-esque type music. So yeah, there's definitely influences from ZSJL, but I think there's a lot of differences as well.
It's just a perfect balance, in my opinion. And a lot of like the music, the very end music when Atticus wakes up, comes out from the dead, and like what plays right before that, before you go to end of part 1, like that real intense music. That's just, I love that. It just really kind of really helps show the stakes of what's really going on here. Is that this is a bigger story.
And I think, yes, you're 100% correct. This is a bigger story, and to that point, Dan, I think there's purpose why some segments of the soundtrack are similar to ZSJL, because we know there's some rumors about certain cast members from ZSJL possibly showing up in this franchise. So I think it was done for a reason. Aside from
Ray Fisher, Ray Porter, and the Bruce Wayne
from
guy.
Those characters, there's still possibly more in this universe. We know Zach loves working with the same actors that he has rapport with and really has a connection with. So stay tuned.
Well, it's kind of funny. Like Mikey said that Cavill's going to be the Han Solo character. Mikey Sutton Scoop, that Cavill will be a Han Solo character. And then I saw Kai, I'm like, but Kai's Han Solo. And then when he betrayed everyone, I'm like,
That's okay. I don't know if you probably didn't watch my watch along, but I said, I don't know if you remember, Dan, but on our first episode, during a reaction to the trailer, I hinted about Kai being I already knew. I called it just from the trailer. I was like, because Mikey had reported about Henry Cavill, and I was like, okay, like you said, if Henry Cavill's the Han Solo, then Kai can't be the Han Solo. So that's why I said in episode 1 of Space-Tastic Discussions, I have a feeling Kai might be a Han Solo, but he actually might not be a Han Solo. And I was referring to the fact that I knew he was going to be a traitor. It worked for me because I fell in love with Kai, with the accent, Charlie Hunnam being so charming and just charismatic. But I did call it just from the trailer. Zach, I know you way too well. I know you way too well.
I mean, I'll definitely talk more about when we get to Kai's character, but yeah, I didn't see that coming. And yeah, and also brings a good point. There's definitely a lot of vocals used in the Rebel Moon score, which I think really worked for this film.
I was glad we talked about in our theory, I think, that we didn't know if there was going to be needle drops. And I'm glad it was mostly just like soundtrack and score, because it really helped keep us immersed in this new world that we were a part of.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing the music really did a good job communicating the score for was just really communicating the villainous guy was Atticus. This guy, I mean, I would probably say this is probably the best actor in the film is Ed Skrein as Atticus. He plays this villain so well. So, like, you just really hate this guy. Like, I've never hated probably a villain more than I have in this movie. He's just such an asshole, just an evil person. The way he's so manipulative, the way this actor delivers the line like, "I'll set you free, you have my word," and he's like, "Yeah, I set you free." And just like the way he delivered that line is so manipulative. It was just, I love this guy as an actor. He is such a fantastic actor, and when you see him die, you're so happy. It's just like, I'm like, thank God they killed this person. only to not kill him. But I digress. He was just such a great actor, and the way the way this villain goes from, you think he's gonna kill Gunnar, you think he's definitely gonna kill Gunnar, but he doesn't kill Gunnar, he kills their leader instead. It's just, you just don't see it coming.
Yeah, like I would describe General Atticus Noble. The first time I got goosebumps was I talked about this before, but that shot of the 3 ships coming and landing, they're doing that sweeping shot over the wheat, coming descending onto Velt, and you see all that dust and rubble and all the, you see all that peace that was in the beginning with Kora that we talked about, with the farming and the civilization that she's a part of. And you see that peace being disturbed and all that mayhem and destruction with the dust flying everywhere, and everybody's getting, the actors are actually getting hit by that dirt and everything. So that ominous tone is set. And when you see Atticus Noble just coming, very imperialistically down that ramp with the scribes following him, you're just like, who is this? And then you hear that charming kind of accent, and he's just kind of like, oh, I'm Admiral Atticus Noble. And let me welcome you into mother's embrace. And he hugs Sindri. And I was so uncomfortable during that scene. I don't know about you, Bat Dan, but when he's hugging, I was like ready for like a certain like to hear a sound of like him just stabbing him or something, because just that presence and the way his body acting, was kind of like holding his head and behind him. I was like, what is going to happen? And that scene, you linger on the other people on Velt looking like, they're kind of weary of this guy, but he's also kind of charming. So you're just kind of like, okay. And after that embrace, you're just kind of like, God, who are you? And he kind of tries to be like, oh, I'm just here, let's talk, let's have some ale. And then he picks up some weapons when he's talking to Sindri, and just kind of like, yeah, we're trying to fight some rebels, the Bloodaxes and blah, blah, blah. And in a way, I think every little action that Ed Skrein is doing is kind of like subtly threatening. He's not doing it outright, but he's letting everyone know who's really in charge subtly. And he kind of gives, in my opinion, I love this character because he kind of gives Sindri and the tribe, like village, opportunity to kind of, hey, this is my proposition. And, they start lying to Atticus Noble, and then he finds ways to get the truth. And when he gets the truth after being lied to, he's like, hey, there's consequences. So in a way, I'm like, is this character, I wrestle because I'm like, is he honorable? I don't really think so. Because there's the theme of honor and dishonor in this, as many Zack Snyder movies have had. And I kind of feel like the reason I like him is he's somewhat honorable, but he really is manipulative, right? He's very conniving, and he's going to get his way, because at the end he says, I want everything. So that's what he's going to get. He's going to get everything. So he's a villain for sure, but I will say he's a delicious villain that I love to see. And throughout the movie, he became one of my favorite characters, just because Ed Skrein really put his all into being villainous and deliciously villainous, that when he is resurrected, I was like, let's go. I need more Atticus Noble. So I'm excited for part 2.
Same here. And like, one thing I want to kind of point out with Ed Skrein's character is that he plays this very intimidating villain. Like, he's this one you don't want to mess with, but he was able to switch so well when he's talking to Balisarius. And he goes from, it's kind of like what I said in our last review, Balisarius, how like you have like someone who's so intimidating, so much of a badass that you don't want to get on their bad side, but even they have the people that they have to answer from. And Atticus goes from like kind of like playing a guy who has fear now, is that there are, as powerful as he seems, there are still people who rank above him that he does not want to mess with, that he does not want to disappoint. And the way he switches from being like kind of that subtle fear. He doesn't completely show it, but like that little expression in his eyes, you can tell this guy is afraid. He does not want to get on Balisarius's bad side. So again, this guy is such a great actor. I love him as an actor. And let's see.
Yeah. Right. But
Yeah.
Gunnar was being, I think, we'll talk about Gunnar later, but he was just doing what was best, honorably. And back then I have a theory. I know you didn't watch my watch along, but I talked about it at the end. Atticus Noble, what we see is that, yes, you're right. There's seemingly somebody bigger than him, a bigger fish, obviously, and he's working for somebody, right? However, what if Balisarius is not around anymore? What if the scribes are manipulating Atticus Noble to do their bidding? Because we know from behind the scenes the scribes' role and what they do, right? But we didn't see any of that. I think the scribes are playing a bigger part throughout this whole entire movie than we think. Because false narratives are something that Zack Snyder is very familiar with. We know that the scribes are all about manipulation and manipulating history and telling the story that they want to get told to manipulate and control the narrative. Could Atticus Noble be somebody who might be being manipulated by the scribes to do their bidding? And could there possibly be a I'll say semi redemptive arc for Atticus Noble? I wonder. When he finds out he's being controlled, possibly he might be rebelling himself.
I don't know if I want to see it. I mean, it's possible. I mean, in Star Wars Rebels, another series of Rebels. Have you seen Star Wars Rebels?
Oh yes.
Okay, yeah. So remember the guy, Kanan, that's his name. You didn't think Kanan was going to have any redemption. The pilot, he pushes off a stormtrooper just for annoying him or some other Imperial officer, and then he had one of the biggest redemption arcs in the series. I mean, when he was on that ice moon with Zeb, that started his redemption arc, and he became such a different character. So, if you were to tell me season 1 that this guy would get redemption, I would not have believed you. So who knows? And if anyone could pull off Atticus's redemption, it's Zack Snyder. So it's very possible. I think it's very possible. But he said they aged Balisarius a lot.
Yeah, because we see obviously the actor Frafi. I don't know how to pronounce it. He was in Hawkeye. He's Echo's little lovesick puppy. If you're familiar with Echo, it's going to be coming out.
That's why he looked familiar. I knew he looked familiar.
You just talked about him with SOTS bulletins on your watch through. So yeah, that actor, we see the flashback, and he's a young character. We saw early images of him about to be crowned in the scene where he's like, I love this part. So we know that there's more story that's going to be expanded upon. I just wonder, I'm just like, the way that whole last part plays out, I don't know. I just like, the scribes are more involved one way or another than we think. That's what I believe.
And it could be a combination of different theories too. And just going on to Balisarius, we'll move on to Balisarius now, since you don't see a lot of him, but in what you do see of him, you can tell he's another real sadistic asshole. It's like the way he just kind of adopted Kora and turned her into a weapon. There was something about that just seems so evil. But I was watching this movie with a friend, and she brought up a really great point when in the flashback when you see Kora get crowned, or like you see like Balisarius has she's like part of the graduation ceremony. Balisarius has this weird evil look of pride on his face that you can tell that he's happy and proud of what she has done. and it just so evil, like just like the way that his facial expressions are. And when she pointed it out to me, I was like, wow, I agree. That's just so bad. And actually, my friend who was watching this with me, she brought up an interesting theory. She thinks that Balisarius was one who killed the king.
Yeah, I could see that. Or there's also the theory that the reason he appointed and put Kora into her position was he manipulated Kora to do it for him so that he could take over. And the comment before, Good Austin, about, so Zach has said that they're working on a series about Balisarius. So when I saw that, I was like, interesting. Why would you give this character his whole series? And I think that maybe there might be a swerve with, like, it might be a Snoke type thing where we think it's the big bad, but there's someone else actually manipulating Belisarius, maybe,
Why'd
and
you say
therefore
Snoke?
Belisarius, that actor, was like, okay, we'll give you your own series, and just to flesh out your character. So that's kind of what tipped me off, Good Austin, about maybe Belisarius. There's a facade there, but who knows? This world is vast, and we don't know what to expect.
One thing interesting about Balisarius' character is I feel like he did have some sort of sadistic love as a father for Kora until she betrayed him. Because there's like little things when he has that speech with Atticus saying like hang her, like you can tell that there's like a little bit of pain in doing this. Like he doesn't want to do this. He loves his daughter, but his duty to the mother world trumps that. He's loyal to the mother world first, and then he cares about his family. So it's a painful duty, and I like villains like that. I like villains who have layers like that, where they are evil, but even they have people they care about. But you question, how much do they care about them? Because a true father would say, "Fuck the mother world. Kora's my daughter." But this guy, I don't know. There's something about him though that he is. I think he's much more evil than Atticus. I think he's a lot more evil and sadistic than Atticus. You don't see a lot of him in this, but in what you do see of him, it's very. Let's just read.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that we do, because we can hear in Kora's voice and how she's been programmed. Like, there's pain, she doesn't want to do the things that she's doing, but she's programmed to be a certain way because of Belisarius taking her in, yes, taking care of her, like you said, Bat Dan, but also manipulating her as an instrument of his will, taking away her free will, which is, what is that? What is the anti-life equation? No free will. You're a slave. So, a little theme right there. And I think a more satisfying conclusion to this potentially third movie climax would be a showdown between Kora and Belisarius, right? For her to finally get back at the person who manipulated her. I don't know. With Zach, he's purposefully said, yes, I subvert all your expectations and all your heroes. And I guess that's why I'm so divisive. But you know what? If I destroy and I bend your hero, I guess your fucking hero isn't that strong to begin with. So I think he's subverting a lot of things that we think are going to happen purposefully. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting the thought. I like to play devil's advocate.
And I always like. It's always interesting when you have people have these different theories and play devil's advocate once in a while, because anything's possible. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened in Zach's movies, in his DC movies, that I would not have expected, but it worked. Like, I would never have expected Superman to kill Zod. I was shocked when I saw that, but it worked. So Zach pulls it off really well. So I think whatever expectations he subverts, he'll do it. I think he'll do it well. Unlike the Game of Thrones season 8 writers. Where all that was subverting expectations for plot. But
Shout
And
out
I
to
and
Zack
I
Snyder for getting 2 Game of Thrones alumni who played the same role, Gunnar and Atticus Noble, Khaleesi's right hand. It was Atticus Noble, and then they recast him, and it was Gunnar. I don't know if you realized that, Bat Dan.
yeah, my friend pointed out to me that there are Game of Thrones people in this
And
movie.
that was just coincidence, according to Zach. So it was
Batman doesn't believe in coincidence, and neither do I.
fake.
And yes, and as we kind of discussed, not too many fake deaths in this, but Bloodaxe, Darian Bloodaxe, I just do not believe is dead. I don't think we got enough time with him for this death to be a real death. Like, it's so funny. Like, people in like BVS, they complain, "Oh, Superman died too soon. We didn't have enough time with him." I'm like, you need 5 whole movies for a temporary death? Really? No. Darian Bloodaxe, however, yes, I feel like there's story going on with his character. I don't think he's dead. He didn't get. I mean, we don't see which side he got shot on, his left or his right side, because it's the left side. I think that's the one that's fatal, right? That's the one where all your organs are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he gets shot on the right side after just watching it. So he gets shot up here, and then I think he gets shot down here, but then he also gets shot in the shoulder before he takes down that ship too. So he gets shot. I counted 3 times, maybe more. So the man is a machine. He's a cyborg.
And plus, we don't know what armor he's also wearing under that too. We don't see that. So there's a lot that could be making him survive. And he fell into water, mind you. And like, while water doesn't guarantee you're going to survive, you can certainly survive a higher distance from water than you can on land. So I don't think he's dead. I do not believe that Darian Bloodaxe is dead. I think that this guy lives. Not just the trailer, because again, the trailer could be a flashback. But I think there's more going on with this character than meets the eye. Plus, I don't think Zach would kill off Ray Fisher so quickly. I think he likes working with Ray Fisher. I don't think he'd kill off his character that quickly. So, no.
And shout out to Ray Fisher for really bringing like gravitas to that role, right? Because that speech that he gives to rally the troops was just so like, oh yeah, let's go, let's rebel. You know, who of you are willing to fight for what you believe in? Rather than hide behind it. Like, I was like, yeah, that's my boy, Ray Fisher, Borg life, baby. Zach knew what he was doing. You know, Ray Fisher, when he was cast as Victor Stone, Cyborg, he was literally a theater actor, a stage actor, really an actor, as it were. And Zach saw that and really gave Ray his first shot at, you know, mainstream Hollywood. And look at him now. Like, he's over here killing roles like Bloodaxe, just this imposing, massive figure, right? He has that gun and that reveal with that shot. That I told you that first shot of him and Devra showing them gave me chills with the children of the revolution in the background. And that death scene was very powerful and very convincing. So when I saw it, I was like, no, like I even said quietly, I was like, no, because I just like love Ray Fisher, right? And you're just like, you just meet him. So you're like, no, I want more. And you see the pain and the sadness in his eyes as he's like shot. He's like, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to take this down. And he hits the control lever to bring the little ship tower blaster down on top of everybody. And it's just like, oh, you get so invested in this character who looks badass that I just also, like you, I don't believe he's done. And I have pre-ordered the comic books, Rebel Moon issues 1 and 2, House of the Bloodaxe, because I have to see, is there any way or any means that, you know, did Darian Bloodaxe have clones somehow? Like, is it because we see him in the trailer for part 2? Is it a flashback? Well, Mama Bear on my watch along yesterday had a point. She's like, hey, the Mother World, they pick up the Imperium, they pick up Atticus Noble. What if they also picked up Bloodaxe? And resurrect him, but with a program to betray his own revolution and crumble it from the inside out. And I was like, oh! Shout out to Mama Bear for that, because he could be back and working for the mother world this time, though.
Oh shit. That's definitely something Zack Snyder would do. He would totally do that, and then
driving a wedge between him and her sister, right? And you want so much more of Devra too, right? Like, just you can see that Devra is the tactician. She says that we've won because of tactical field work, and Darian is the brawn, right? So we have the brains and the brawn, and together they're formidable. But when you separate them, I was like, when I watched it multiple times, I'm like, I do love Darian, but man, the Bloodaxe is kind of set up. He told him, he was like, this is a suicide mission, more or less, but he wasn't the best leader in that situation, in my opinion, because he didn't see everything, right? He didn't really invest. He was just like, hey, we got to help out this farmer and these people. But Devra was very skeptical. She's like, if we get into this battle, it could take us down, right? So luckily, she was using her brains, and it sucks that you root for Darian because he's so, his heart is so big, but ultimately gets him killed and a lot of his troops. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Milius. Shout out to Milius, who is the last rebel of the Bloodaxes to be standing. So she might have a role to play. Who knows, in Darian's resurrection as well.
Yeah, lots of different people, and I really do like that theory that the mother world could bring him back and implant a chip in his head or something to. So that's really interesting. And again, like one scene I really love with Ray Fisher, and I kind of talked a little bit about this in the last review, was when he's talking to Atticus, or not Atticus, Gunnar, and he goes from like intimidating, like, why are you here? But when Kora explains to him what happened is that, hey, this happened because they gave you guys grain. They sold you grain and helped your revolution. The way that Ray Fisher immediately switches from a look of anger that you come here to a look of compassion. Like that, oh my God, that is such a great actor right there. I always say, the actors that are the best to me are the ones that can visually communicate what they're feeling, not just say what they're feeling, but visually communicate it. And Ray Fisher does a really good job visually communicating that, and visually communicating when he's on that, blowing up that gun, that big gun thingy, and he could just kind of, there's a bit of look of despair in his eyes that he's gonna die, that to him, he's probably going to die right now, and he's sad that this happened, but he's still does what he needs to do and just has that idea. It's like, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. So Ray Fisher is such a great actor, and Zach really knew what he was doing. I think he's probably my second favorite actor, right under Ed Skrein, in this movie. And Devra, you don't see a lot of Devra in this movie, but I agree with you. She's the brain of this. She is the brain, and she was thinking with logic, and in some ways she was right. Like, yeah, going there, helping this revolution could be bad for them, but I mean, at the end of the day, they still gave a big blow to the mother world, so it's not like it was a total loss, especially because we know that Darian's not really dead. Let's just be honest here, but you can tell that she doesn't want to do this. She doesn't like saying no to rebels, but she has this big picture thinking. It's like, we can't stop and save every battle. It reminds me of Rebels, another scene of Rebels. Remember, and I'm sorry for those of you who have not watched Rebels, but there's a scene where the main character, Ezra, wants to save Lothal, and is talking to the leader of the rebellion, Mon Mothma, being like, why can't you save us? We're in trouble. And she gives this big speech about how if we save Lothal, we have to save all these other worlds. We just can't do that. We have resources we need to use. And that's what Devra is thinking, is that she has that same mindset that we can't stop and save every universe, every world, because there's so many worlds in trouble. We want to save all these worlds at once, not just one world at a time. So you understand her point of view a lot. You really do get that point of view. So that's what I like about like Devra and Darian's discussion right there, is that you see both sides of it. Is that I agree with Darian in some regards, and agree with Devra in some regards. And these are the main characters. These are the ones that we've followed this entire movie. And I'm siding with Devra a little bit. I'm like,
Yep.
damn, she has a point. And I've
Mhm.
seen these guys' story. I've grown more attached to them, but
I agree. Like when I saw her, I was like, "Ooh, yeah, Bloodaxe, I love you, but I don't know if I would, follow you. You're all about, yeah, yeah." And then see what happens to everybody. Like they don't make it out. So, but he has a heart of gold, and like you said, that when he locks eyes with Gunnar and he sees the compassion that Gunnar had to him and Gunnar's own people, he recognizes that, and it brings the compassion out in him. He's like, "You're right. Him helping us brought him a world of trouble. So you know what? We owe it to him." So I think Bloodaxe is a very honorable character. So gotta give him props for that. Shout out to Ray Fisher for portraying that amazingly.
and shout out to, let me get this name right, to Cleopatra Coleman for her great portrayal of Devra. Devra is another character I want to see a lot more of, and we're definitely going to see a lot more of him. Which again, that's a common theme of Zack Snyder of this movie, is that we want more, is that there's more we want to see, which we will in the director's cut and part 2 and beyond that. So we'll definitely talk about whether this was a success or failure towards the end of this show. But you mentioned Gunnar, and this is what I love about Gunnar's character, is that he has a bigger reason to help the rebellion. Because he got syringe. I want to say syringe, but that's like syringe. Sidrid. He got Sidrid killed. I mean, he did. He didn't mean to, but he did. He opened his big mouth. He exposed the lie to Atticus when he contradicted what Syringe said. Skirridge. I'm so bad at these names. Too many names. But he felt bad about what he did. So he has a big reason to help Kora with the rebellion the entire time. Is he needs to, in a way, redeem himself for causing the death of the village's beloved leader.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that guilt carry with him.
Yeah, like what you're saying, 100%. He, like, his part in particular, I've been mentioning. I've been working and playing Rebel Moon nonstop during the week, and hearing his dialogue after the death, before, when they're talking with Sindri, when they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and then after the betrayal, after he speaks up, and makes everyone hate him by being like, well, actually, we do have some surplus, but everyone's like, shut the fuck. And I think Gunnar is the most honorable character of all these characters. And so Zach had said in interviews that this guy, he kind of like played it off. He's like, Gunnar's just like an everyday person. He's just like Joe Schmo. So that's like the character that most people are going to be able to relate to. And I think it's because, he's not like this special, samurai or special, revolutionary or special soldier trained. He's just like a farmer, one of us, just he's being compassionate. He's like, hey, I'm trying to make a little extra money for our community and giving back to them. So if you listen to his dialogue in both those scenes before and after Sindri's death, I think he's trying to be a little too honorable, to the point where he's comes off as a little like buffoonish, because ultimately he gets father killed, right? Sindri, you can call it father if it's too much back then. So he gets father killed, unfortunately, by telling the truth. But he's telling the truth, right? I mean, he's just like, hey, I did sell some grain to these Bloodaxes, so we did have surplus, so I'm just telling you the truth. Ultimately, that comes to bite him in the ass when, father gets killed, and he's like, all right, well, I'm taking all your grain now. I'm not just taking your surplus. I'm taking everything. So he's on that path to really make up for his mistakes, because he has honor, I think, right?
Yeah. And exactly, is that he is probably the most honorable character of all these different guys. And he really pulls through when it really mattered in the end. When when Kai was gonna make Gunnar kill Kora, is like, here, use this device thingy, kill Kora. And to me, that it looks like that takes exact timing to do. Like, I don't think that's something that you could just easily do where you could just turn around and use it on him instead. Like, I think you had to really have great reflexes to pull something like what he did off, where he pulls it out right before he kills Kora into Kai. Like, I think he really needed to react in that split second, or else I don't think it would have worked. And he really showed that in the end, in that final battle. And that's why I like Gunnar, is that he goes from kind of a buffoon, and he still is a buffoon a little bit, but on the journey, you see potential in him to be something more, to be a badass warrior, to be this badass soldier. Because, I mean, if you think of the bar scene, too, the bar scene when Kora pisses off that one guy, that one Joss Whedon looking guy, there's a lot of memes comparing that guy to Joss Whedon. That's just what I've seen. And here's Kora kicking ass, no problem. You see Gunnar not even able to fight one of those guys. So he, again, because he's a Joe Schmo, and let's be honest, compared to Kora, everyone looks like that. I mean, to be honest, Gunnar probably still put up a better fight than I would have. I'm just gonna be honest about that. But
yeah, he
was able to, at the end, just kind of be able to make just one decision, one split-second decision. And it's not like he's like a badass fighter all of a sudden, but there's you see that potential in him. And that's what I really love with his character, is going from this buffoon to this potential badass that in Rebel Moon, at the end of Rebel Moon Part 2, or Rebel Moon Part 3, because we know we're going to get a Part 3. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself there, but I think we're going to see a lot more development with this character, and that's what I really liked him. And Kora sees his potential, because Kora mentions he saved all of us.
Yeah,
Gunnar did that.
Even that scene with Nemesis, like there's obviously a lot cut in that scene where Armada and Nemesis are fighting, but we see Gunnar is the only one to get involved to try to help save the child, because Armada throws the child, and nobody else seemingly. We haven't seen the full director's cut, right? But Gunnar gets in there and is trying to protect, and Armada starts coming after Gunnar, So shout out to him for having that courage, because Gunnar is, we're being shown that Gunnar is going to do the right thing, right? There's a line in Aquaman where they said, you do the right thing even when the wrong thing is easier to do. So I think Gunnar is that character that's full of compassion and love, maybe a little too much, right? Because in this lawless galaxy, he's kind of like getting assaulted by certain brothel members, right? But one thing I just wanted to point out, I saw somebody post on Twitter X a very interesting side-by-side picture of Gunnar and a young Zack Snyder. And there's a lot of similarities if you look at the two. So I kind of think, maybe Zack might be doing a little like, hey, I came from this small town into this Hollywood crazy lawless world. And, maybe Zack might be putting a little bit of himself into that character. I don't know. But I kind of get some potentially Luke Skywalker vibes from Gunnar, actually. That's not Kora, which I thought it was going to be Kora. But I kind of see like an arc. Luke starts off as a whiny little brat that you don't like. You're just like, shut up. We get that with Gunnar. We get pissed off at him very beginning, right? We're like, shut up. And there's ultimate redemption into badassery. So just saying.
I think there's a lot going on with this character. And another character, we don't see him a lot, but I think there's a story to tell with him. Jimmy, which, hold on a second. Talk for a minute. Keep talking.
Yeah, this is my favorite character. This is my favorite character. Somebody on Twitter X was giving me a hard time. He was literally like in 3 minutes of the movie. Well, guess what? Those 3 minutes were just enough. And I saw just enough of that character to make him badass. And my favorite character. Shout out to Sir Anthony Hopkins. To be honest, like Kora is obviously like more or less my favorite character. But Jimmy has yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous. JC, does it say his code name? JC124? It just says Jimmy.
It just says Jim. Yeah, it just says
so it's JC1545 or something like that. But that's awesome, Bad Dan. Congrats on winning that trivia question at your screening. But this character design was gorgeous, right?
Yeah, such a great character. But like, what's really interesting to me is the way he progresses his headwear a little bit. It's like Sam puts that flower crown thingy on his head, and then later at the end of the movie, he's wearing what looks like reindeer antlers in a way. So there's something going on. Like this guy is going through his own character arc that you really see. Is because at first he's just a loyal soldier who doesn't fight back. He's loyal to the king, and then you see him. He's not supposed to do this. He's not supposed to fire back, and then all of a sudden he kills the bastard pervert, the leader pervert guy. And I was one of the most satisfying deaths in the movie, because if there's one thing that's not redeemable, it's what those guys were doing. So
Oh,
when
100%.
Jimmy did that automatically gave him brownie points for me. It's like, good, kill that guy, kill that word that don't know if YouTube's gonna take me down for saying, but kill that Ropus guy. Kill him.
Yeah.
And I was so happy that Jimmy did that.
When he did that scene, that when he comes in, shout out to Kora. Kora was the one who started that scene, but Jimmy definitely finished it. When he holds that gun and just in a moment's notice blasts that MFer, my theater, and I was like, yeah, erupted. You could tell the theater was won over by the movie, because that scene starts off as very tense, right? You're like, oh God, like we know that this is a hardcore universe already. Because of what we saw Atticus do, but come on, like we don't want to see that, right? But if you're a Zack Snyder fan, people who are predators and do that, they're gonna get the Bat brand and they're gonna get taken down. Zack has no time and no patience for that, and I'm sure what we see Gunnar go through, is very similar to what Sam was almost put through, right? So I think that's Zack making a message and a statement about how that's not going to be tolerated in any form or fashion in this world. And Jimmy definitely made sure of that. So shout out to Jimmy, my favorite character of this movie. I believe Zack did post a picture of what I'm theorizing is a snow elk, because Gunnar talks about at the beginning with Kora, Din got a snow elk. So I was like, oh, is that the creature that Jimmy has the antlers from? And there's a picture that Zack posted on Vero of Jimmy looking at what's seemingly a creature with antlers. So I was like, oh, is that the snow elk? One of the snow elks? And does he get the crown from that, the antlers from that? So we might see Jimmy be learning how to hunt, because this is a civilization that has to hunt and gather for their food. So I think there's a lot more of Jimmy actually in the director's cut. But even if there's not, there's just enough for me to call this character my favorite character in the movie. So shout out to Sir Anthony Hopkins, who gave such gravitas to that amazing mythological speech about the prophecy of Princess Issa, right? That was just so a great warmth in the universe. That line just sent shivers.
I think Sam reminds him a lot of Princess Issa, because if you look at the two actresses, they do look kind of alike. They do look pretty similar. So yeah. I think Jimmy sees something, and I think there's something Jimmy sees, and I agree. Jimmy's my favorite character too, is because you don't see a lot of him, but what you do see of him is you can tell that he's really kind of going through his own arc as well. And just again, Anthony Hopkins has one of those voices that just works really well. So I hope to see a lot. I think he's going to have a bigger role in part 2, because I think part 2 is going to take place a lot more on Velt. I think you're going to see a lot more of the village in that movie. So I think you're going to see a lot more Jimmy in that movie. So I think there's so much great stuff going on that I can't wait to see with Jimmy's character. And one character this guy, Kai, we talked about him. I mean, my jaw dropped when I saw him betray everyone, because I did not see that coming. Like, I did not see that coming at all. I should have in hindsight, because when you see the ship leaves, you see one of those bounty hunter things working for the Mother World watching them. And then rewatching the movie, I'm like, that's why Kai's in constant communication with them about what they're doing. And it's funny, because I know people are going to criticize this. It's like, why is Kai helping the rebels? Why is he bringing them all together? Because I know because the thing I like about Zack Snyder, he doesn't directly tell you everything. You just have to figure it out by watching the movie. It's like Kai was bringing out people in hiding. He's bringing out different traitors in hiding and trying to bring them to the mother world. Because if you notice, there's a reason why you don't see him help them in a single battle before they actually fight. There's a reason for that. Because the goal was never to help them fight the mother world. The goal was always to bring them out of hiding and together so the mother world can just take them down in one fell swoop. The only mistake was he underestimated Gunnar, the buffoon. That was his only mistake, which if you watch the movie, you can see why he underestimated Gunnar. It's because he was a buffoon the whole movie. Is that he got one act of courage is what changed everything. So that's why Kai's plan was brilliant in a way. If Kai's plan should have worked. That should not have happened with Gunnar.
Mhm.
So that's why why this twist works so well in the movie. And that's why, because at first, I'll be honest with you, Josh, I had a criticism that why don't you see them team up more? Why don't you see them actually fight people more? But the reason why is because that wasn't the point of this movie. The point was this movie was forming the rebellion. And if Kai was helping them, the twist would not make sense. Because if Kai was helping them all along, there's a lot of movies they do this. They put a traitor in, but then there's certain scenes you're watching, I'm like, why did they do this if they were really working for them? That still doesn't make sense. But Zack played it smart. He made sure that there was nothing going on against the mother world in this movie.
Yeah. And
nerd girl.
Hey, what's going on, Net Retro? Thanks for stopping by. With Kai, even though before seeing the movie and just from seeing the trailer, I knew what was coming, knowing Zack Snyder with Kai's character. I still, kind of fell in love with him, right? He was just the way he saves Kora from the pig and the brothel, right? And just kind of like, hey, I'm an opportunistic. No, that's not my, he's just the way his accent, the accent really goes a long way, I think, in making you fall in love and let your guard down with the character. And shout out to Charlie Hunnam, who I believe is from the UK and did a Belfast Irish accent. As someone who's Irish, I love the accent and fell in love with it. And I think that kind of helped us be thrown off by him. But after rewatching it, from the very jump that Kora walks into that brothel, you see that bounty hunter lick his hand and give some kind of like deal with Kai at the first time you see Kai in the hood, right? So it's all kind of telegraphed, just like you said, how Zack Snyder tells a story. It makes sense. And shout out to Skywalker the Jedi and Leon, who, like, when they first watched it, or when Sky first watched it, he was like, he criticized it. He's like, everything kind of just comes together a little too easy as the team. And it's when you rewatch it, you understand, no, it was Kai, like you said, who planned all of this, who made the deal to get them all round up to make money. He sizes them each up after the betrayal. And he says that, the number one goal for him was General Titus, because that turncoat was the most money, right? But then he also talks about the price of Prince Tarak, talks about the bounty, the vigilante known as Nemesis. He talks about the cost, and he's just trying to, support himself, right? But he's greedy also. So he doesn't factor in that Gunnar is, that wild card. And I think that's for a reason. Admiral Atticus Noble even talks about being one step ahead. He's like, I pride myself in always knowing, being a few steps ahead or something like that. And he's like, but here I find myself surprised, because Gunnar, right? So Kai and Atticus Noble are both thrown off by Gunnar's presence. And so that's the one saving grace and the new hope of this rebellion, is that anybody can make the right decision with given the chance. So Kai just, let his guard down, and we don't see what happens, but we see Gunnar put that thing, I think, up to its chin. And we hear the noise, but we don't see anything. So who knows what Kai's fate was. But Charlie Hunnam, amazing job. Like, really, even though I saw it coming, I was along for the ride, and the betrayal still hit me like, no. So I was locked in.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how I feel too. Like even rewatching the movie, I know the betrayal's coming, and it doesn't like hit me that or like I still think he's a good guy. It's like it's like again, I keep referencing other TV shows, but that's like the best way I can explain stuff. Like, have you ever watched Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
I've watched Breaking Bad. I've only watched like the first few episodes of Better Call Saul, but I intend to because Breaking Bad is one of the best shows of all time.
So Gustavo Fring, the way the actor plays him when he plays his civilian persona, there's certain scenes in Better Call Saul that he he gives certain speeches and he tells like a certain story at a certain point about his backstory and it's bullshit because you've seen Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but the actor's so good that I believe him even though I know it's not true, and that's how I am at Kai at certain points, is that I believe him even though I know he's going to betray everyone. Even though because I've seen the movie, it's still very believable. And but there are certain things but at the same time, I watch certain things. It's like it makes more sense. Like when you do a twist, you have to go back. You have to say, "Oh, this makes more sense now." Like when Kai was not taking something for money. When he's like, "Oh, pay me whatever it's worth." I'm like, a bounty hunter, an opportunist would not go for something that vague. I mean, like. Especially pay me what's worth. I can just say, oh, well, it's worth $1 to me. I mean, not that. Well, let's just say the equivalent of $1, but.
Yes, I agree, Retro. 100%.
Wait, you said this earlier you just said this earlier in the review. So.
Yep. Like I said, I don't know if Retro saw that look of young Zack Snyder looking Mark Hamill-esque, but side by side of a young Zack Snyder with Gunnar. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And he talked about that scene, how on a stream, he's like, I'm subverting your expectations of what Star Wars or science fiction should be. So he's like, what I'm interested in is, what is the farm boy Luke going to do when he goes into a trashy brothel? Everyone's going to be like, oh, look at the farmer, look at the farm boy. And that's why, the pig comes out hard after Gunnar. So yeah, I think that you're right, Retro. Me and you are right that Zach is telling us that Gunnar is kind of the Luke Skywalker. But Kai was supposed to be the Han Solo. But I think, I was like, no, Mikey said there's another character coming that's Han Solo. So if Kai is not Han Solo, then Kai's a douche. But a charming douche nonetheless. You even see Kora, look at her scenes when they're on the ship. She's smitten hard with Kai, right? Yeah. So we buy into that. We're like, ooh, it's so cute. Kora and Kai. Ooh.
Yeah. And you could tell she was really hurt by the betrayal.
She was.
And
hear it.
And I love Charlie Hunnam's acting when he just has that look that shrug type look when the explosions are behind him, and
and you see when he's talking about his home planet being destroyed from low orbit, the tears in his eyes, the remorse, he's kind of more or less trying to, hey, look out for himself. He's just, he's kind of that, he doesn't have honor, he's dishonorable, but at the, he's trying to self-preserve himself. So if there is, we talked about the theory of a twin brother or a clone or something, or maybe Kai's just not dead and or gets resurrected. If there's a twin brother, maybe that twin brother also feels the same way about Kora and the rebels. So maybe he doesn't want to set foot on the wrong side of history. One of my favorite lines delivered in the movie is from Kai, actually. Never set foot on the wrong side of history. No, you made it on this. You're on the side that doesn't even make it to the history books. Just the accent just kills me. Great job, Charlie.
And that's the thing. At the end of the day, history in the Green Lantern animated series, history was recorded by the victors. So, and Charlie Hunnam thought that that the Mother World would be the victors, so he wanted to be on that correct side. So, yeah, and there's another great thing with Kai, a great thing that foreshadowed his betrayal right before when he said, "Don't look in the crates. I'd hate you to think less of me." I'm just saying it's so casual, but it's like, don't look in the crates because if you look in the crates, my plan is ruined.
Yeah, and it's so slimy. It's like, hey, you're making everyone else do your job for you, and you're just over here. And of course, when you see that creature, that bounty hunter with like the bluish dark skin with the little ponytail, it's the same character from the brothel at the beginning. So I was immediately like, I was already like, I know it's coming. I know it's coming. But even just hearing his explanation, it still just kind of hurts because he's coming from his motivation is pain, trauma, seeing all of his people die. But he does it to good people, right? He betrays good people who are trying to do the right thing. And so Kai is awesome, just like Retro said, but he's also dishonorable. So I think he gets what's coming to him.
Yeah, thank God. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if we do see any more of Kai later on. But again, hopefully not too many fake deaths because we don't want death to become meaningless. Now, I want to go on to this character, Tarak. I have to confess, there's only one real story criticism I have with this cut of the movie. That's not not something I think will be resolved in the director's cut. We need more of the characters. I felt like to get Tarak, Ray Porter's character, was a little too quick to go with that bet to be like, oh, I'm a gambling man. It's like he kind of fed them a way to free him a little too easily, in my opinion. But I guess at the same time, he didn't think that Tarak would actually be able to do it too. So,
Well, to that point, I thought that too initially back then, but listen to the exchange between Ray Porter's character and Kai. They know each other. They already have a relationship. So, oh, if it isn't the bastard from I want to say Alderaan. I know it's not. Soldier, it's like Solderon or something like that.
it rhymes with Alderaan.
Yeah. So I think that Kai gave him the heads up. Hey, I'm bringing these people with me. You're going to let Tarak come with us. So I don't know. I'm assuming, they're supposed to show, don't tell. But just seeing, like I said, that brothel bounty hunter give that little deal with Kai immediately in the brothel, I have a feeling that was all set up purposefully because that goes, Kai is one step ahead of everyone, right? So he had to have radioed Darkseid and been like, hey, we're on our way. Release the prince. We need him. So that's what I kind of think about that.
Although it didn't end up working out well for him in the end because guess what happened? He ended up dying. So, which it's funny if you saw our spoiler-free review, you'll notice that there's a little segment where I say spoiler segment cuts in the text. That's because I cut out that little part where I accidentally said that the guy gets Hickman. That's his name, Hickman. Gets his comeuppance. And I'm like, and then I said that, I was like, oh shit, that's way too spoilery. So I had to cut that out, which is not easy to do for those long videos, mind you. That's a lot harder to cut segments out in those long videos. So you're welcome.
Thanks.
But so I mean, yeah, so as I talk about it, it's actually less of an issue for me now. But Tarak is just I love his way that he connects to nature. You really feel he's kind of connects to the, I mean, for lack of a better term, connects to the earth really well. The planet, we'll just say the planet since it's not Earth. But the way he connects with creatures, the way he connects with Banu, you can just tell that he has that animal whisper type of vibe. It's just such an interesting character. And like, you talked about honor with Gunnar. Tarak has honor too. He's like, I pay my debts, even to a dick like Hickman. Not that he said that last part, but that's the idea is that, because I mean, let's be honest here. If Kora really wanted to, she could have easily taken on Hickman and been like, knocked him out and cut the chain and be like, hey, let's go, let's go. It would not have been a problem for Kora. She could have easily done that. But Tarak has honor. He's like, no, I owe a debt, and no matter who it is, I have to pay for it. So he does have. So Tarak is another character with honor. So that's why they had to do the bet. It's that he had to clear his debt truly. So it's a small little thing I like about Tarak's character. And I love that shot you see in the trailer where he jumps on Banu. And then when he just like, you don't see this in the trailer where he spreads his arms out like this, embracing the creature finally, embracing Banu, embracing the air. it's just such another really great scene in this. Another really great scene with this character.
Agreed. Like you said, like we see him working, um, and dirty and just roughed up like a Conan looking, Tarzan looking type of character. And he tells him, he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I got a debt to pay, and he tells him like, hey, I'm no friend of the mother world, my crimes are all true. So he admits he doesn't try to lie, he's like, yeah, I did that. I did this and now I'm paying for it. So he really is noble in a sense, not Atticus noble, but he is a noble character. And then of course you find out later on he's a prince. He comes from royalty. So I'm sure like whatever civilization he came from, that's something in there bestowed upon them, or something that he's trying to fight to keep, even though his environment shows him that there's a lot of characters that are dishonorable and will lie and will steal just for greed, like Hickman does, like Richard was saying about Kai and Hickman are probably have a deal about, splitting the profits that Kai gets for turning in these rebels, So Tarak really gave me like a sense of adventure when he was taming the Banu, as it were, the way he connects. Shout out to Stas Nair, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, for that acting. Like if you see what he was acting against, it's just like a head. We really see Stas going all in for the serious gravitas of that moment. It's a creature, and we believe it's a creature Banu because of Stas's performance. He's someone I mentioned before that I know him from Supergirl, and he had like one episode of Krypton, the prequel.
Oh, I know Supergirl. You said that before. I recognize the Supergirl character now. Like, yeah,
William
I know that.
Made up character as a love interest for Kara. But yeah, his acting, like I said during the trailer, Zach really pulled out a different side of him, in my opinion. And he looks like he's actually going to be more barbarous in part 2. So that's one thing that I will criticize. I want to see a little bit more like the visceral fighting that I think Tarak is capable of. I can tell that he is somebody who can get down and dirty, but he tries to be very, honorable and noble when he's not called upon to make those decisions. And another goosebump moment was him taming that Banu. I totally got Man of Steel, First Flight vibes from that.
Oh yeah,
so cool, right? And seeing it in theaters back then, so awesome.
Yeah, I'm really glad I saw that. That's another really good visual scene to see in theaters. And again, that scene when the Banu looks like he's going to knock Tarak out. You see it in his eyes. So, and now another character I kind of want to move on to is Nemesis. What I love about that scene when she's fighting Hermada is that she's conflicted. It's like she needs to save the child. She knows this, but she also knows that she was like her people. You don't get the exact backstory, but there is some responsibility that she has for this character, for Hermada, is that she caused the pain. She does not, through mining the planet, they hurt the children. So like, I love that when she kills her, she's like, don't celebrate this because this isn't something she wanted to do. This is something she had to do because no matter why Hermana was attacking the child, she was attacking the child still and was not in the right for doing that. So yeah, I think there's a lot. I think she's like really conflicted with this. Play that conflicted character really well is that she had to separate her duty, but still at the same time recognize that, hey, there was a threat. There was a real threat that had to be taken out to save the child. So
yeah, and
another
you
really
see
great
that
character.
Kai has, this is the second character. He makes Kora diverge from the path and the goal to get General Titus because he's rounding up slowly but surely honorable characters. And I would say Nemesis, we see in her scene is as a very honorable character. She's trying to like in the world that she's on, I forget the name of it, but it's dirty, it's decrepit, it's just kind of like the lower levels are more full of criminal activity, as it were. And the people obviously know that Nemesis is a savior, right? So Nemesis tries to reason with Harmada, and you can see in her eyes, she's giving her a chance. Like, hey, let's be honest. This is not your child. It's not right to take a child that's not yours. I understand you're hurting. Blah blah blah. Nemesis is a mother, right? Nemesis, we find out that she had children, and the mother world slaughtered her children. So she has hurt, and she has compassion for Harmada, because of Harmada's eggs are not able to hatch, and Harmada doesn't have children. But you can't take someone else's child and kill them just to make yourself feel better because of revenge, right? So that fight scene, of course, with the molten swords, they are not lightsabers. They are way cooler than lightsabers, in my opinion. Just the way they look. Obviously, you see Nemesis use them as a shield later on in the final battle. And I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to see all the capabilities. But when she does ultimately slay Harmada, it's not happy. It's not triumphant. It's like sadness and somber, because she's like, do not celebrate this. This could be any one of us. And she's just trying to relate to Harmada, a crazy, gruesome creature, but she's relating to him as a person, somebody who's just like her. So shout out to that actress, Duna Bay, who really showed in her eyes and the way she portrayed herself as not only a badass, but someone compassionate and full of regret to do the thing that she did. But it was ultimately the right decision to save a child. So for another mother.
Exactly. She did what she needed to do. And yeah, it's because it is a really great scene. And I agree with you, Rachel. I love that scene too. I love the layers. I love the conflict that Nemesis had. But at the end of the day, she had to do what she had to do. Didn't celebrate it, just accepted that it needed to happen. And another great character, and I love, you kind of get a little bit of her backstory. She kills a lot of the Mother World soldiers for killing her child, is what they said. That's what they said, killing her child. So
slaughtered children.
Yeah, that's the word Noble used. So yeah, you just hear a little bit of her backstory, and another character, you don't see a lot of her, mind you. She's just kind of there afterwards. You see her fight, but I think there's a lot more potential with this character. But the real one, the main one they were going after for was Titus. And yes, Titus this time. If you haven't seen our spoiler-free review, I kind of got him mixed up with Atticus because I had gotten back late from Chicago the night before, and I was tired, and the names were similar. But Titus, the general, not Atticus, another interesting kind of character. You don't see him a lot either. You don't see a lot of him either. You just kind of hears that he feel bad that he got his men killed, and he's in self-pity. He's drinking, he's fighting for sport, and it takes giving him that speech.
Yeah. He's somebody, I will say, if I had a little criticism of any character, I just love Djimon Hounsou, just from all his work. One of my favorite roles he's in was actually Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio. But of course we know him as Shazam, the Wizard Shazam, and he's always criticized that he's not really been able to show what he's capable of. And although he doesn't have a ton of screen time and we don't get a lot of his character, and the little that we get, I think Zach really brings, once again, an actor that shows so much in what little screen time he has, because his introductory scene, we see just the body acting. He's a slump drunk, right? Getting, harassed by a look like possum looking creature on the streets of this gladiator-esque planet. And then he's kind of low. Zach films him very low because he's literally, his morale is low because he has no honor, in his opinion, because of he got his men slaughtered and he gave himself up. But Djimon Hounsou, and the way he talks and his look in his eyes, there's hurt and there's pain. I have no rank, no privilege. Like, stop calling me that. I'm not no general. Kora and him go back and forth because they have similar backgrounds, right? They both worked with the Imperium, and they were raised and programmed to be work for the bad guys, essentially. And they both end up ultimately regretting decisions. And so Kora kind of convinces him, like, hey, there's no redemption for you. Well, there's revenge in store for you also. And then he looks, he has tears in his eyes, but he looks her straight in the eyes, and his slowly but surely his body acting, he starts becoming more erect in his structure to be so redemptive in his stance. You can see him rise from the ashes and kind of the fire is reignited in General Titus. So yes, nice voice acting. Yeah, I've been listening to the dialogue, so a lot of times if I know a line, because I've been listening to the movie over and over again, I'm like, oh yeah, I know this. Right now I'm playing it right now, and I'm seeing the Bloodaxe die right now. So I'm learning this movie by heart. But yeah, General Titus was another honorable character, and the big fish that Kai wanted, and you can see why, right? Because he's one of the most I think dangerous characters, because he has all the training necessary to make a successful rebellion for this team. So can't wait to see more of his backstory, and see if anything was cut in the director's cut. But overall, excited to see him show up again in part 2, train all of the inhabitants of Velt to stand up against the Mother World.
Oh yeah, I think we're definitely going to see a lot of him, more of his character. I think in a little bit we saw. Great line, another great voice with this character. So I think there's a lot more to come with this character. Now, before we move on to Kora, I want to just other supporting characters. I think one who gets an honorable mention to me is the guy who he's kind of like the Finn of the Mother World, Private Ares. What do you say?
Private Eris.
Eris. I loved his characters, that he worked for the Mother World, but he slowly saw how corrupt they were. He was just likely just raised in it, believed in it, but when he saw them actually try to rape Sam, okay, well, I tried not to say it earlier. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take me down for it, but that's what happens. That is what happens. He stands up for it. He stands up for Sam, for her, and he put his life on the line. He did. He put everything he knew. His life is on the line. And now he has no one, because I don't think Kora can get mad at him, because she walked away from the Mother World too. Who is she to get mad at him? But I'm just saying, the people of Velt may not be receptive to him, and that's what I really want to see. Is like, are they gonna just take Sam's word and be like, hey, he saved me? I would like to think that the people of Velt would see that in him, be like, hey, you did a brave thing fighting against the Mother World. So that takes a lot of bravery to do, and I think there's a lot more with this character that I want. I want to see a lot more of this character. That was the one I wanted to see more of after the opening act, was more of him.
Yeah, this actor, like you can tell from his introduction, he's locks eyes with Sam, and they kind of have like a kindredness to both of them, right? Like, maybe do they know each other? Are they, familiar with each other? But you see the soldier kind of push him along, like he's kind of like reluctant soldier, right? When all the other soldiers are reveling in the domination of these inhabitants of Velt, right? Private Eris is just like, look, I'm just here for the job. I'm not trying to do any of this other crazy crap that y'all are doing. And when he sees something wrong about to happen to Sam, he stands up. And you look at that actor, he's kind of scrawny. He's not the biggest guy, but he's full of heart. And he takes on Marcus and all those little MFers who are, trying to do something wrong. And Private Eris is like, no. Socks Marcus right in the face. Oh, I hated Marcus. Shout out to that actor, Greg Crine, I think that's how you pronounce it. He played Marcus so well, to the point where you hate him, right? And then Marcus's commanding officer, he's even more sleazy, because he tries to make the inhabitants of Velt kind of like him, and then he wants to take advantage of Sam too. And so Private Eris kind of finds himself standing with Kora and with Jimmy among against, you know, the soldiers that he was brought in for. So I have a feeling Private Eris, the inhabitants saw that, right? And they saw what Eris did. So I think that they're actually going to be embracing of him a little bit more. They are about the same age. It's possible Eris did know Princess Issa. Sam looked like Issa, according to Jimmy. Yep. And that's, you know, I got the sense that Eris might even come from nobility. Who's to say? We know Tarak is a prince. Could he be related to Tarak somehow? Maybe. Could he be related to Issa somehow? I don't know. There's a lot of like nobility, you know, stuff. So I get the sense that Eris might be kind of like drafted, like Finn, as it were, you know, kind of, or like Kora, actually, you know, taken against her will and programmed to be a soldier, but fighting against that. So I'm excited to see more of Eris in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. And I guess other characters that kind of should get a shout out is Sam. I really like Sam's character as well. Is that again, she's just another simple girl trying to just do her day-to-day life in the village, and very, you know, she was so nervous giving those guys water because she knew what they were up to. She knew that they didn't really want water, they wanted something else, and she knew she had to or else she'd die. And it wasn't until they were actually going to, you know, that she started screaming for help. But just another great actress, and the way she bonds with Jimmy. I love her chemistry with Jimmy, how she just sits down with him, touches her, puts her hand on Jimmy's face, and I do laugh that Jimmy kind of lights up when he does that. I'm like, if this character were older, I'd definitely make another type of joke with that. But
she is listening to Jimmy, you know, tell the story, and she starts making him a crown, you know, and I don't know, like I wonder if she's like either she, you know, she's heard this before and she's just letting Jimmy talk, you know. But I get the sense that Sam kind of knows more than we think, possibly. I don't think she's Princess Issa. I think Zach deliberately put us that red herring, though, to make us think, oh, that's Princess Issa. And I think that's too on the nose. I'm just going to say that right now. But the actress, like you said, did such a great job in her performance in the small amount of time that we see with her, to the going from, like, you know, that tender moment with Jimmy, and then that horrible screams that we know we don't see what's happening in a certain scene, but just the way her screams, you saw my theater tense up. And so she did an amazing job portraying this character, and I am so excited. Probably one of the most things that I'm excited for is seeing her be trained by General Titus, and we see in the trailer later on that she's going to have her own little arc of a character. She's not going to be a victim in part 2. I think she's been traumatized enough, and now she's going to learn how to fight. And so I'm excited for Sam. Shout out to the actress. I think Charlotte Maggie is her name. Sam is somebody I'm really excited to see in part 2.
Yeah, same here. And again, shout out to Kora and Jimmy for killing those perverts, because if there's one thing that's not redeemable, it's taking advantage of people, taking advantage of anyone, especially women, especially people who I guess are underage. I don't mess with that. If you do that, there is no redemption. So I'm really glad that those guys are just dead. Thank God for that.
Shout out to Zack Snyder for staying consistent with all his movies. Thanks, Zach.
Exactly. And I know that scene was a little, like, I was watching that scene with family, and they were a little uncomfortable because they don't know what's going to happen.
Right? You're like,
yeah. Like, it's almost more uncomfortable than death is like being that. But again, it's to show how bad these people are. And it's like, what would it take for someone like Kora to really step out? Because she was not going to step out. She was not going to do anything. She was going to run away, let the village fend for themselves. But it wasn't until she saw them taking advantage of Sam that's the big thing that got Kora to fight them, to say, nope, we're gonna fight. I'm gonna help you guys save yourselves. Because that again, that's not redeemable. It's not. And I think, but in a way, it was brilliant of Zack Snyder to do that, because that's like one of the only things I think that could have convinced Kora to help them, because a little seed that was planted is you saw Kora and Sam have a nice little conversation earlier. So I'm just saying they really show that there's some connection between Kora and Sam, so that's why Kora actually fought them.
Yeah, and I like that, going back to Sam, but also going to Cora. When she takes down the perverts, she obviously does it because she has a connection with Sam, right? She sees Sam as someone that she can kind of, it's a girlfriend, that's her friend, and she's bonded with her. She wants to run away because she doesn't want to give people hope, right? At first, because she's scared of what she's going to be capable of. And if she's capable of inspiring hope, she knows that there's going to probably be death to a lot of the people in Velt, because not everyone is trained like her to defend themselves. But when she hears what's happening to Sam, she's like, no. She takes out those MFers and she tells them, right before she blasts those the last MFer, you see the people of Velt after Father dies. They're like, oh no, we're gonna show the mother world that we're good farmers and the work will speak for itself. And yeah, so we're gonna work for them and they're gonna leave us alone. And it's just like, you're so out of touch, people. These people want everything from you. And so that's when Cora delivers that blast and shows them, like, look, everybody come in this barn. Look what was about to happen to Sam. Somebody who's defenseless. She shoots that MFer and we're going to have to fight. And so that's, even though she at first doesn't want to inspire hope with the people of Belt, she's like, nope, look at what they're going to do. They're going to do something, like you said, kind of worse than death almost to somebody that we love in our community. If they're capable of that, well, guess what? We're going to have to be capable of so much more. And we're going to have to kill them all. We're going to rebel, baby.
Plus, I want to kind of point out, I just realized a flaw in the villagers' logic where they're like, oh, we're going to farm. That will save us. Something we can do that they cannot. I'm just saying, Atticus literally said, oh, we'll get robots to do the work for us. So I'm like, that may not be as viable as you think. So
That's what I'm saying.
maybe.
They're very Gunnar-esque, right? They're just doofuses. They're buffoons. They're like, oh, you're so oblivious to the world you live in, really. You have this small little community, but look what's out there. Evil is out there. You're going to have to fight evil just to survive.
Exactly. And Kora is a great lead. Sophia Boutella is such a great actress in this movie. It's why I've said it before. We've said this in our last review. Zack Snyder is probably the best male director for female characters. And maybe not even just male director, but just any director for female characters. He just makes them badass. That's all he does. He doesn't prop down the male characters to make Kora look badass. You could argue with Gunnar, but no. Gunnar just goes through his own little arc. So like that scene in the bar where she's kicking ass and Gunnar's a bit of a buffoon. At first, might look like a scene where you're just trying to prop down Gunnar to prop up Kora. No, because Gunnar steps up at the end. So he's just going through his own arc. But Kora is a trained fighter. And she's just such a badass character. She's compassionate. She cares. Because here's the thing. We don't know why she left the mother world yet. I mean, like, you get the idea. She didn't like what they were doing, but what did they do? What was the ultimate thing that they did where Kora's like, no, I can't be a part of this anymore. So there's more to Kora's story than we saw.
I have a feeling, like we mentioned during the Balisarius section, that Kora might have been manipulated to slay Princess Issa. And I think that Kora, she's trying, when we see her at the beginning, she's trying to fit into a society that she knows she's not really a part of, right? And I think that's part of her guilt of what there's an action from her past that she feels guilty of, right? So she's trying to run away from that guilt and blend in with the society. But by blending into a society, she ultimately, bonds with them and starts caring for them. So she ultimately is reminded, I think, of some atrocity from her past. And she's like, I can't let this trauma happen again in front of me to people that I love. And like you said, Sophia Boutella, really, really, in my opinion, she's not getting the praise that she deserves. Sophia Boutella really, like Zach has said, balances the badassery of Kora, but also the tenderness and sweetness and compassion that she has. That character really got you know, I bonded with her very quickly. Like everyone who I've heard from who've seen the movie, who I would consider a normal general audience member, just loves Sofia Boutella's Kora. She is somebody who I thought was going to be the Luke Skywalker, but she's not. She's something else, right? In a lot of ways, I mentioned this, like I see parallels between Kora and Jimmy. If I'm being 100% honest, I said Jimmy's my favorite character, and he is, but Kora really is. And I think the reason why I love Jimmy is because I see Kora resembling Jimmy's arc. Kora has been programmed by the Imperium, the Mother World, by Balisarius to do atrocities and to work for them, right? They manipulated her to have a lover and to bond with that lover, therefore perpetuating the motivation to do it for the Mother World because, hey, your lover's working on this side. So, hey, if you stop working for the Mother World, your lover is going to go away too. So there's so much manipulation happening that you understand why Kora did what she did. She's been used as an instrument, right, of somebody else. Like Letro was saying, I do believe that Belisarius put her there to potentially slay the king. But honestly, like, do you have a section for theories or anything, Bat Dan? Because I have a theory that I want to mention. I don't know if I should.
I can add one. I'll add
I
one.
won't mention it here, but I just think Belisarius, as far as we know right now, Belisarius is using Kora, right? And we see that conflict in Sofia Boutella's performance so well. And we also see her be a badass. She was giving me Wonder Woman vibes, but I mentioned this. She was also giving me not so much Luke Skywalker vibes, but a lot of Clark Kent, in my opinion. She was very reminiscent of the classic hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey to me. Luke Skywalker is a classic version of that, so to speak, as an archetype, but Kora really is too, because that call to action that starts off with Sam in the barn, what sets her off on her journey of redemption on her own, and finding the rebels and gathering them. You could be the one to find, warriors to protect us. What does Bruce Wayne say? Same thing. I need warriors. So Kora is very much a hero and somebody that I'm going to be rooting for going forward. And I love to see her, like Jimmy, start being deprogrammed because she's fighting against what people want her to do the right thing. So I think Kora and Jimmy, they're both being manipulated or programmed to do something wrong, and they're rebelling. They're giving their free will a chance to make the right decision to do something good when everyone else is telling you to do something wrong. So shout out to Sofia Boutella for making Kora Balisarius. That's how you pronounce it, I think. Balisarius, the badass that she is. Arthurlaeus. I kept on.
Yeah, Arthurlaeus. That's
Arthurlaeus. Shout out, because I want to hear more. I mean, I'm assuming Kora was her birth name, right? And then the Mother World gave her Arthurlaeus as that name. But I can't wait for more, because she has that badass haircut once again in part 2 that we see, and she looks gorgeous. I love her with that short hair. Shout out to Sofia Boutella.
Yeah, she looks really great with short hair, and plus the movies were filmed back to back, so I have a feeling they might have filmed a lot of part 2 before part 1, or they filmed the flashback scenes during the part 2. So
very true.
But I love another scene I love for Kora is that bar scene when she's like, "I'll give you guys a chance to walk away," and she just takes them down so easily. Gets behind the wood. I mean, maybe it wasn't the most realistic that she got behind a wooden table against laser swords, or laser bullet. But I mean, other than that, though, I think she's just really good at taking down the bad guys, very efficient, and just, again, I say this about Zack Snyder. He does diversity really well because he doesn't focus on a character being female or a character being a person of color. They're just a character who happens to be female, who happens to be a person of color. And like the cast, just in general, is very diverse. You, you got a black guy, you got an Asian, I'm saying in quotes because there's no Asia in another galaxy, but that's not the focus of them. They're just cool characters who happen to be the checkboxes, and that's why I like Zack Snyder. Other shows, if you have a female lead, it's like they mention, oh, girl power, and their personality is the oppression of being a woman, and they're just good at everything magically without explanation. And to me, that's just disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
Make the character cool, and then it won't matter what race, sex, gender, sexuality they are. Just make a good character first and foremost. And Zack Snyder does that really well. And I address this because I have heard the woke criticism of this movie. I have heard that. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a female lead character who is badass on her own by being badass. And that's why she is a good character. She's a great motivator. She motivated Titus to actually join them with that great speech about revenge. She's the only one who was brave enough to touch Banu, like touch the wings while everyone else ducked.
Yeah.
And the way Sophia Boutella communicates that betrayal from Kai, again, that facial expressions, the tone, you could tell the pain in her eyes, in her voice. Like, oh my God, Sophia Boutella is such a great actress.
Agreed. Like Zach really, I think, goes like we talked about with Stas, with the Supergirl actress, brought out a different side of that actor. And I think, really, in my opinion, like Sophia Boutella, I've never seen her as good as she's been in this movie. So I think Zach, should really be praised for his directing with her as his main character. She went a long way.
She really did.
And we're gonna see some hot and steamy action in part 2.
We saw that in the trailer. I definitely saw them kiss. And where Kora really excels is the final fight. The way she takes down Atticus at the end and gets up from hanging on that ledge, and she manages use the rope to pull Atticus down and climb her way back up, and then just uses his own stick and knocks his teeth out. Which is why I'm thinking Atticus is not a full-on robot. I'm thinking that he's definitely partly human, because just like some robot implants inserted into him. But because those are not robot teeth, I'll say that. But again, Kora, that final fight is just such a great fight because everyone matters in that fight. Everyone is badass. Darian sacrifices himself, and they won. The rebels won, but at a cost.
Yep. 100%. Like, and it almost gives the sense, like we hear Admiral Atticus Noble say right before Kora knocks his teeth out with his own cane, like, this is perfect. So he's got this, like, he prides himself in being one step ahead. He talked about that with the betrayal on Kai. So this might be part of his plan. Like, for all this to happen, this might be part of Atticus Noble's plan to move up the ranks of the Mother World, in my opinion. He knows by being defeated by Arthurlaeus that's going to put stakes into the Mother World, and they're going to be off guard. They're going to be focused on Kora more, and the rebels more so, I think. So in a way, I think, Kora was the victor of this battle, but the war, I think, Noble might be one step ahead of him. So who knows what kind of twist we'll see in part 2. But shout out to Sophia Boutella for really making that scene, that final fight scene, like a cheer moment. You're like, yeah, when she falls off, and then, like you said, we gets that strap and like uses it as like a whip and then pulls him down. I was like, yeah, girl, you go. And using her environment to her advantage, it made it so believable. But somebody, like Kora and Sophia Boutella could go against Atticus Noble, and I bought it, and I was in for it.
It's interesting I say final fight on here, but really it's the only fight in the movie. But that makes sense why it was the only fight real fight in the movie, because Kai's twist would not have made sense if that wasn't the only fight in the movie. But other highlights too, Darian Bloodaxe, we mentioned earlier. He did a great job the way he charges up on that bridge and takes down the gunship. another great fight scene. The way that Gunnar steps up at the end, the it's why I love this fight. Everyone does something. Everyone does something. Nemesis and Titus, and Tarak, they all fight. It's just visually a great scene, though. The explosions, because I think I said this in the last review, that I'm not good at fire for effects, because real fire in real life looks like CGI to me. I don't know why, but like, again, at a campfire, not watching a movie, in real life, I see a campfire that looks like CGI to me. I don't know why. But so you have to try extra hard to make it look real to me. And the explosions look real to me. And that scene when Atticus blows up Leviticus' planet, that scene there too. The explosions look really real in that scene. And in this final fight, just the visuals really, I think, kind of helped make that fight look good too. It's just such a powerful scene when they finally defeat the Mother World, and they're all celebrating the victory. That they're saying this may be small, but we showed the Mother World that this is like the first step. This is the first step towards rebellion. That, hey, you guys are not as powerful as you think.
This is the small act of defiance rings out. A voice for the voiceless. Like, once again, Jamon Hansu, like, just really delivering like a powerful motivational speech, just like Darian Bloodaxe did. I think Titus is more of the general that I would follow behind than Bloodaxe, suffice to say. But yeah, this final fight, like, you see everybody getting a little bit of action. I do want more, obviously, just like you said, after you got out your screening. I just want more. And I have a feeling the director's cut will give us more savagery in this final fight from Tarak, Nemesis, General Titus, Gunnar, even all the characters, Milius. So and Darian Bloodaxe also. So I'm just, what we did get though, I was very satisfied, and it just made me so invested when you see that showdown. And you're just rooting for the rebels, and that's what we're here for, right? We're rooting for those who are like us, just rebels.
Exactly. And we got a great time with the characters, but I guess one thing that I think is a bit of a criticism is the pacing. Is that one thing I will say, it was a little quick at times when it's like they were kind of able to get the people to join them quickly. But I mean, part of it too is we need to see 30 minutes to get everyone to join. So I feel like I think the middle act did feel a little rushed at certain points in that regard, which is why I think the director's cut will really help flesh a lot of that stuff out more. Because Zack Snyder definitely works better in the long format. Because there's a quote he made. He said, when he was talking about the Justice League production, when they wanted him to make it 2 hours, he's like, how can you make production 2 hours? He's like, it can be done. It was done, referring to Justice League, but he said he didn't know how to do it. He said that for a reason, because to get a big team together. Now, this was a little different because this team had more of a center. Kora was the main character, whereas Justice League, while centered around Superman, they're all kind of the main characters, so it takes a lot more time to build that team. But the point I'm making is that that's why there's a need for the director's cut, because by Zack's own words, you can't have a team film be under 2 hours. And now Zack did make it work. He did make it work. But I definitely think the R-rated longer cut will definitely help flesh that out more. So yeah, I definitely think we do need a director's cut to see Zack's true version, because there's a lot of Snyder fans, or now I'm wondering, Snyder fans who said that they did not like this movie. I'm like, maybe the director's cut will change their mind. We'll see. But what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, just, knowing ahead of time that there's going to be a director's cut, some people use that as like trying to get us not to watch this movie, right? And it's like stupid, so stupid. But for me, like, to be perfectly honest with you, thank you for doing this review today, because like, I'm going to be with family tomorrow, and I'm going to be with my my niece who's young, right? And she loves Zack Snyder. She watched the Snyder Cut. You know, she watched Wonder Woman, she's watched Shazam, she's watched Suicide Squad, she's watched the universe, right? The DC universe. So she loves Zack Snyder because of that. And I'm not going to show her the R-rated version because I know Zack has said it's going to be hardcore. And, you know, there's certain things that, you know, it's up to her mom if she wants to show her that. But I love that there is a family-friendly version. And Zack has even said that there is a family-friendly version because he wants to show his kids this movie, right? And spark the imagination because there is so much, you know, fantastical, mythological type themes throughout this movie. Like I said, this really, when we had our first episode of Space-Tastic discussions, I have been mentioning Star Wars and some story since, but I really do feel this is not Zack Snyder's Star Wars. This is his Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, just like he did with Superman in Man of Steel with Clark Kent, Henry Cavill, Kal-El. He really gave us that archetype of a character. And I believe that's what we got mostly from this version. When we get the director's cut, I do think, like you said, it'll not feel as rushed. It won't feel as, you know, like I was watching it yesterday on my watch along, and I was like, oh, we're already here at the end battle. And I was having such a good time with these characters, I didn't want it to end. Right. So I get what you're saying, but I think we're going to be able to breathe and enjoy when we get that extra hour because we're really going to dig into these characters' backstories a little bit more. And if it's depending on what is shown, you know, maybe my niece can watch it, but I'm going to have a sense that this version is going to be just the right amount of length. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes. If you cut out the credits, I think it's like 2:04, 2:05. So you got to remember, this is a streaming platform movie. So most people, you know, will invest 2 hours. Okay, cool. But then if they like it and they find out there's a director's cut, then they're going to press play and figure out more, you know, of these characters' backstories. So I think it's a good strategy for Netflix and for Zack, for Netflix to get multiple forms of content from the same creative, and for Zack to be able to have a version of his movie that is his version, but family friendly, but also the true version where he's going to go all out, give us all the sex, all the gore, all the violence, and all the goodies that Zack has up his sleeve. So I can't wait for Zack to shoot all his bullets, as he likes to say, in the director's cut.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot more that will make this movie even better. I think again it'll be kind of like how with BVS. Once I saw the Ultimate Edition, I never wanted to watch the theatrical version again. I have a feeling that's what this is too. Is like once I see the director's cut, I don't think I'm ever going to want to watch this version again because why would I? Then just watching an incomplete movie at that point. So yeah, I think it will definitely be good. But I honestly I like the version we got. I think it's a really great movie. I think it's an amazing movie, just this version alone. So, but I think the director's cut will be even better. So theories, I guess my big theory: Darian Bloodaxe is alive. He's definitely not dead. And I think Balisarius is responsible for the king's death. And I agree now that I think he used Kora to do it. So I guess what's your big theory?
The slain king is not slain. The king is the big bad. Cary Elwes is alive still. And Balisarius is the red herring villain. He may still be alive, but I think the king is the big bad. You don't cast an iconic actor like Cary and give him just, oh, okay, we're going to show you in flashbacks. When you see him ruling his planet, I have a feeling this prophecy, this Issa and all this might not be what we think it is. I think it might be all manipulation tactics. And I think the slain king is not slain. That's my theory.
You know what? I think I agree. Not my theory, but I agree. I think it's definitely a red herring. So
what did Bruce Wayne say in 2016 don't believe everything you hear, son.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Good point. Good point. So we'll see. We'll see. I think there's a lot of great stuff that's set up, and now there's a kind of a topic I want to bring up here. Netflix, success or failure? Because there's a lot of people because this movie, it's the #1 movie in the world right now on Netflix. It's streaming #1, and it's a great success for Netflix. But people are trying to say it's a failure. They're trying to mince words somehow. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, Netflix has declared it. It is, when it came out on Christmas, counting just to New Year's Eve, #1 movie in the world. So Zack Snyder caught it, period. #1 movie in the world, period, when it debuted. So it has, I told you in a group chat that it has actually slipped as of today. On Fridays, Netflix releases new content that is more like mainstream blockbusters. And so other content has gone in front of it. So we need to work harder, keep engaging with Netflix, and continue to get those views up for Rebel Moon. But as of right now, look, it's a success. So there's been a lot of like comparisons and I come from like I talked about, psychology background and sociology, and statistics is something we really have to study in my field. Statistics, guys, can be manipulated and used in a variety of ways, okay? You use sample sizes and you take sampling of different areas, but you don't ever pull the whole population, right? So statistics can always be manipulated for good and for bad. All right, just keep that in mind. And I think that there's a lot of people that are just like, they know we're Snyder fans and they know they can trigger us. And so they're coming and, you talked about, some reviewers that you were really fond of that you didn't like what they had to say about this movie. But you know what? We also have to keep in mind that Zack Snyder's name is clout. And if you say something disparaging or something that the fan base isn't going to like, what does that do? That causes engagement for that tweet or that video. So you're going to click it, right? You're going to keep clicking it to see if they're changing their mind when the director's cut comes out. So if they trash this version, in the director's cut, you're going to be clicking to see, oh, did they change their mind? So let's keep the big picture in our heads, Let's remember everything in the past with Zack Snyder's work. This movie debuted with 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a crock of what, if you ask me. So, this movie is a success. It was purposefully review bombed. And I think a lot of people, if you have gripes or complaints, cool, but articulate that in a good way. And back up your claims, not just coming into a chat and start bashing on, like I saw in Skywalker and the Jedi's, chats and about it. People were just like, oh, this movie's trash, la, 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 with no. And then some trolls were like, okay, fine. It was a 7 out of 10. I'm like, that's still pretty good if you're rating it a 7 out of 10, in my opinion. I don't know what your ranking system is, but you can have gripes with it, cool. But to say this movie is like worthy of 9% on Rotten Tomatoes is ridiculous. So we made it #1 after all this review bombing and all this negativity and opposition. But we just need to keep it, as successful as possible. So I am literally, as of now, as we've been doing this now, 2 hours has went by, and I'm restarting Rebel Moon on my phone again. So continue to watch Rebel Moon, continue to study it, but engage with it, because I promise you, by rewatching it over and over again, you're going to learn about the world more, Dan. I know you're talking about having issues with character names or planets or whatnot. I'm listening to it, and so that's how I'm able to remember certain things. There's even a companion guide to really help you invest and learn the world. So continue just with Netflix. And I think by continuing with Netflix and Zach, we are going to continue to make it a success. But as of now, it is a success. So we can celebrate that. Fireworks in the background. Space-Tastic
exactly.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. Yep. Shout out to Austin on that. And just want to point out, too, again, I know this is not a DC show. This show is not a DC show, but I'm just saying, success on Rebel Moon on Netflix just makes Cell a lot more inevitable. Cell's the issue on Netflix, Cell's Snyderverse on Netflix. Netflix has everything they need now. WBD needs money. Netflix wants content. Zach has again proven to be a success on their platform. They have everything they need. So just keep on following the ROEs to get the conclusion to Zack Snyder's DC story. Plus, I'm just saying we could see a lot of Rebel Moon actors from Rebel Moon who weren't already in ZSJL first. I think we're going to see a lot of them in the sequels, in the ZSJL sequels. Sophia Botella, I could totally see Zack Snyder putting her in ZSJL 2 and 3. So lots of potential there. And as Mikey Sutton said, with streaming, they don't worry about critics as much because there's less of an effort to see the movie. So this was a win at the end of the day, guys. This was a win at the end of the day. Plus, Netflix also knows that DC, that IP to a lot of people, is a lot more engagement too. So,
Yes, sir.
if an original IP is this much of a success, imagine what an established IP is.
Oh yeah, and think of how many more views we're gonna get when Zack Snyder's Justice League gets on the platform, and then potential sequels. So, only up from here. Only up.
So overall, Josh, any final thoughts on Rebel Moon Part 1? And what would last review we did a range. So now, what's your, I guess, final score with this movie?
So last thing I wanted to say, I guess I didn't say this during my theory, is like I mentioned it earlier at some point during the review. I think the scribes are very people are not paying attention to the scribes enough in this movie. So like I said, my theory about the slain king not being slain, I think it's why are the scribes always following Noble around, right? They're manipulating everybody underneath him. I think Balisarius is possibly being manipulated too. And I think the king is faked his death possibly, and is manipulating everybody to fight amongst themselves while he's over here just living large. So the scribes are somebody that we really need to pay attention in part 2. And I loved this movie. I loved it a lot more. I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did. Like I said, going into this, watching the trailer, it really didn't seem like Star Wars to me. I can see the inspiration, yes, but this was Joseph Campbell's classic hero's journey. If you don't know what that is, study, do your research. Zack Snyder gave us archetypes, just like George Lucas gave us archetypes with Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Princess Leia, Han Solo, the droids even, right? There's certain archetypes in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. You can see that with Kora. You can see that with Gunnar. You can see that with Atticus Noble. You can see that with Titus. You can see that Tarak. There's just the same. It's inspired by the hero's journey. So I think this is something that is eventually going to grow to be timeless. And something that we're going to really dive deeper into with the director's cut. But like you said, I just want more. And originally on our non-spoiler review, I gave a range. I didn't want to rate it until I saw it a few times. So I gave it between a 7 and a 9. And so originally I did want to go a 9, but we talked about how a few characters got shortchanged, right? And I do want to leave a little room. So for the director's cut, for my score to change, I kind of want to just judge it without a director's cut in mind, right? But we know it's coming. So as of now, I did enjoy it 100%. I'm going to give it an 8 point. I want to say 5. I'm going to go 8.4. 8.4 for me.
Okay. I would say for me, I would give it a 9.192689934 out of 10. I love the movie. Director's cut. There's still a little bit more room for that score to go up, but I think I love what we got. My gripes with them were very minor, and honestly, it became less gripes as I started talking about it more with you. So I think this is a fantastic, an amazing movie. I love it. I think it's my favorite movie of 2023.
Yes.
I have not seen Aquaman 2 yet because of time, but I don't think it's gonna trump Rebel Moon, even if I did see it.
I loved Aquaman 2 officially after I've seen it 3 times now. I saw it 3D, regular, IMAX, and 4DX with 3D was my last screening on Tuesday, and I officially love it. But Rebel Moon, I love way more. So yeah, they're different. They're different mediums, different stories, but there's just so much more to dig into with Rebel Moon. So yeah, definitely Rebel Moon is my favorite movie of 2023.
And now I want to talk about the Part 2 trailer. We had a Part 2 trailer that came out recently, and I'd say my main shoutouts, Kora and Gunnar kiss. Darian Bloodaxe seems to be alive, and Kora cut her hair, and she's talking to Atticus Noble, being like, I'll kill you again. So those are kind of like my main highlights. What are your main highlights?
Oh, I want to see more of these blue molten swords for sure. Seeing Kora wield, we get a little snippet of one of the Imperium officers, I believe, Motherworld officers, use it when Sindri, father, is slain. You see his girl, the woman, kind of run towards him, and then she gets sliced down with the blue one. So I really want to see Kora use those molten swords. Nemesis is badass, of course, but I want to see what Kora can do, because we see her be lethal with just a little strap, using Atticus Noble's little staff against him. I want to see Sam, like I said. I'm really excited to see Sam become a badass and not be a victim and learn how to defend herself and take down
shoot well in the trailer.
Yeah, I want to see General Titus train the inhabitants of Velt. We do know ultimately that there's going to be a lot of, people taken down, but Velt is populated by hunters as well. So you know what? They're going to be using their environment in that guerrilla type warfare. So I'm sure General Titus is going to encourage that. I want to see more Tarak, 100%, more Titus, more Bloodaxe. I think in that scene of what we think is Atticus Noble coming out of the pit, if you zoom in, it kind of looks like somebody with slicked black blonde hair. Could that be Kai, or the body of Kai in that scene being resurrected? Because we don't see what happens. We see Gunnar put it to his chin, and we hear the noise, but we don't see anything. We'll see something in the director's cut, but now we might not see the director's cut before Part 2, so we don't know. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, it would be smarter, as much as it sucks, it would be smarter of Netflix to not give us the director's cut before Part 2, because I think the director's cut will spoil some stuff that's coming in Part 2. That's what I kind of think. Whatever way rollout they want to give us, that's fine. But yeah, I think Kai we might have seen in the Part 2 trailer without really knowing it was Kai. I want to see my theory come true about the slain king not being slain. And I want to see more of the scribes, because I know that Zach is telling us commentary on the world we live in with the scribes. So I just want everything. I want all of it. I just want all of it. Everything we see in the trailer, give me more. Oh, and that badass haircut that Kora has. She looks sexy as well.
Yeah, I like that haircut too. She looks great. I mean, she looks great with all these different hairstyles. So I think, again, the trailer doesn't show you too much. It's a little teaser trailer, but enough that you're hyped up even more. So
Devra.
I can't wait.
I need more Devra Bloodaxe too, being badass.
Yeah, same here. I want to see more of her. We don't see a lot of her. And I think there's so much great stuff coming up. I cannot wait to see a lot more of this movie. It's so much great stuff coming up, or of this franchise, I mean, and possible other stuff for Zack Snyder's work. So coming up on this channel, actually tonight, Sox Bulletin and we're going to review What If Seasons 1 and 2. I actually have to watch the last five episodes of Season 2 first, so plan is 8:30 EST, but it may get pushed because I need time to actually watch the episodes and let them sink in a little bit. So right after the show, I'm basically going to be going back on Disney Plus, finishing out that season. And then coming up for the year of 2024, as this after the show tonight, no more content on this channel for the rest of the year. So, but coming up in the new year, Josh and I will definitely get our Aquaman 2 review in because we do want to cover that movie. And I will review Echo with Socks for Marvelous Discussions. And I'm going to do a lot more Bat Games interviews on my channel because Mikey Sutton really believed in my interviewing skills. And the best way I can honor him, I feel like, is continuing more of these interviews because to develop my skills even more. So I'll be bringing a lot more people on the channel for interviews. Josh already interviewed you, so definitely be a while before I get you back on for an interview, but
no worries.
We'll definitely have you on the channel a lot more. Oh, yep, Qatar, we're just wrapping up, but catch the show on replay. So be on the lookout for that. A lot of great stuff coming up for 2024. What about you, Josh? Anything coming up on your channel?
So I announced it. Thank you, Bat Dan. I checked in with you. I set up my stream, my watch along for Rebel Moon, and I don't pay for StreamYard just because, hey, it's an extra expense and I'm a social worker. Don't make the most amount of money. I do it because I love helping people. And unfortunately, the pay disparity is very large. But I do it because I want to help people. That's why I do it. So I was over my watch or streaming hours, I guess. I don't know. I'm not familiar with StreamYard. You're pro at it more than I am. But I guess I was only supposed to be able to stream an hour and 58 minutes yesterday, but I ultimately went almost 3 hours. So thanks to StreamYard for letting me do my last stream officially, live stream of 2023. That was yesterday, and I announced that. And so I am a part of the Monarch Monstars. And so I have been doing dropping in. They had one actually at the same time that we were streaming for episode 8 of Monarch Legacy of Monstars, which is a fantastic show. So definitely check that out if you have time over the holidays. But I just want to
which channel is that on?
Apple TV Plus.
I mean, like the show that you mean. You said you're a part of the show.
The Monarch Monstars. We do breakdowns of the episodes.
Yeah, but which for those of you who don't know, I know which channel.
Bat Channel. I'm sorry, the Bat Channel. Sorry, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, Bat Channel. I didn't say it. Bat Channel with Corey and Trey. So check out them. They just broke down episode 8, and I'm just gonna be probably popping up on some other people's streams for the rest of the year. Probably not any this weekend. We'll see, but I know like Good Austin wanted me to be on for one of his discussions about Rebel Moon, and so maybe I'll be on Sky's stream. As of now, I'm just gonna be hanging out. Catch me on Twitter, X, and social media because I will be rocking out Rebel Moon as much as possible. Please, I want to encourage you all to not engage alone. We do this together. Round up your rebels. Press play on Rebel Moon this weekend. Let's keep the views up and let's keep it a success for Zack Snyder and for Netflix, giving us a great warmth in the universe.
Well said, Josh. Well said. And guys, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more unique takes and interesting thoughts. One more show on this channel tonight, and then we are off for the rest of the year. So on that note, have a space-tastic year.